There's always a lag on mine. So yeah. Okay, we're live.
Yay.
Uh, thanks everybody for being here and watching this show. And thank you everybody who's watching this after it's been recorded, not watching it live. My name is Biologist Wild Trees. I am a biologist. I study mainly microbiology and insects, animal behavior, ecology. I study in the field, but I also have a lot of interest in the paranormal, and that's what this show is called Science of the Strange. So we have a reoccurring guest, Bobby Dizzle. Thank you for being here, Bobby. And then we have there you
Sorry, I was
go.
eating a moon pie.
He's in the
Still
moon
funny.
pie. He's full of moon pie and he's ready to go. So be careful, everybody. And then we have John Russell here. Now, I just spoke with John Russell with Bobby on Bobby's show, so that episode will drop. And I spoke with John before that when I was on Black Lotus Live, which you could still watch that episode if you just go to the playlist of this channel called Black Lotus Live with Wild Trees. But yeah, John is a great guy to talk to. He's got a lot of great ideas.
Thank you.
He's You're welcome. He's been doing psychic readings now for several decades, and he's very full in his schedule. And he's also a writer. He's written 2 books already on the paranormal and his experiences, and he's working on a third that'll be kind of like a how-to book as far as how to increase your own psychic prowess, basically. So we're excited for that one. I actually want to start with that because I thought that was great. Can you repeat the steps, John, for you recommend for a modern individual to become more spiritually enlightened? Now, involve going to a place and being quiet, and what are those steps?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, first thing we have to realize, we're way more plugged in and distracted than we realize that we are. And that's evident by, you know, the incessant eternal scrolling on the phone and
Hmm.
Facebook and everything else. So we have our cell phones, we have our computers, we're in our cars, we listen to music, we've got music going at home, we have the TV on, even if we're not watching it, just for background noise. Um, People have lost the art of conversation, because everything's a sound bite, everything is 5, 10, 15 seconds. They tell you when you're producing things, nearly anything, don't go over 10 or 15 seconds because you're going to lose somebody. They tune in, and the first, the 5, 10 seconds, that's all they're going to pay attention. Unless
Hmm.
you grab them, they're gone. And they just repeat that process over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So this is our current society. And people wonder, why don't I hear from the other side? Why don't I hear from my deceased loved ones? Why don't I get guidance? Why don't my guardian angels contact me or give me, whatever? And the reason is we're so plugged in and we're so distracted that we can't hear.
Hmm.
And we don't understand what the process of hearing is. We think, well, I hear you, I hear the phone, I listen to somebody on the phone, I hear the music in the background, blah, blah, blah. That's not listening and that's not hearing. To understand this connection with the other side, we have to disconnect completely from all the things that we're entranced with now: the TV, the radio, the cell phone, the computer, the music, everything. And we have to get quiet. Why? Because that's how we hear. That's how we hear the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm is not going to break through while you've got the TV going in the background and you're scrolling through YouTube videos and messing with your phone at the same time. You're not going to hear from the other side that way. The way that the other side works is you completely disconnect, you get quiet, and you state your purpose. I'd love to hear from you. I need guidance. I need direction. And then you get quiet and you listen. What do you listen for? You listen for an intuitive feeling inside. You listen for maybe an actual voice, a spoken voice. You listen for a voice in your head that guides you and tells you what to go to. You listen for some type of external sign that comes, however it comes. And this will occur sometimes immediately. Sometimes it'll occur in weeks. Sometimes it'll occur in months. But the key is persistence.
Okay.
And so what you have to do is set aside some time every day, 5, 10, 15 minutes. You're completely unplugged. You're not, not messing with any, you've got silence, you've got quiet.
Hmm.
And you say, okay, here I am again. You know, show me what I'm supposed to be learning, what I'm supposed to be doing today. And then get quiet. Listen to your intuition. Listen, watch for a vision, either literal or in your mind's eye. Listen for a spoken word. Listen for a word in your mind's ear.
Mhm.
And begin to do that every single day and keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. You'll be amazed at what comes into your life, the guidance that you get, the things that manifest. Now, here's the catch.
Mm.
When they do,
Mhm.
you got to do it.
Okay.
I was riding my motorcycle up I-75 one day. I'd
Mhm.
scheduled myself a day off. And I've been a hardcore biker since the age of 15. On my current bike, I've got almost 114,000 miles on it alone.
Wow.
So I'm riding up I-75. It's a beautiful, glorious day, blue skies, sunshine, and I'm just geezering along. Now, here in Florida, like probably most places, the posted speed limit is 70 miles an hour on the interstates. And in the right lane, people usually go 80. And then in the middle lane, people are like 85, 90, maybe even 100. In the left lane, all bets are off. That's where
Yeah.
people imagine they're training for the Daytona 500. And, there you go.
Criminals
So
in the left lane.
there you go. So I'm geezering along and I'm doing the speed limit just a little below, sometimes slacking back down to 65. I'm enjoying the sunshine and I'm enjoying the countryside and the feeling of being on the bike and the wind in my face and all this. And it's just a good time. And all of a sudden, my guys, I have this collection of communication on the other side that I affectionately refer to as my guys, which are guys, gals, guardian angels, nature spirits, who knows what.
Okay.
And so my guys tell me, and in my head, but audibly, I can hear it in my head, moving to the far left lane.
Oh.
After all these years, I start arguing.
Oh.
Guys, I don't want to move into the far left lane. It's going to take
Wow.
some really tall riding to get there. I've got the skills to do it, but I don't want to do it. I'm having a good time. I'm leisurely rolling through the countryside. Look, there's some cows. Look at that. John, moving to the far left lane now. Son of a bitch. So it takes a hell of a lot longer to tell you about this than the entire thing occurred. But everything I'm telling you, all my thoughts, everything else, it was a few seconds' time. So I'm downshifting, leaning the bike over, bobbing and weaving through traffic, clutch on, clutch off, brakes on, brakes off, throttle on, throttle off, blah. And we could get through the traffic, and people are damn bikers, and I get in the left lane. And so now I'm riding along well below my high speed riding capability, which is well in excess of 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
But I don't want to be going as fast as I'm going over there. I'm like, man, I just wanted to goof around and I just wanted to. And about that time in the right lane, this guy gets hit or hits somebody, spins around in the right lane, facing the wrong way. As he's spinning, his eyes make contact with mine as I look over. And detritus is blowing across the road like shrapnel, hubcaps, pieces of bumper, mirrors, glasses, and the other. And the guy winds up pointing the wrong way on the interstate. Cars are screeching, swerving around him, trying to get stopped. And it was like, holy cow, if I hadn't not only listened, but obeyed what I was told to do, I would have hit that guy. 9 GM people would have hit me before they got stopped. I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. So the point of everything is you got to stop, get to the point where you can get quiet and listen. When you listen, do what you're told.
Yeah.
And you look at the victims of serial killers that escaped.
Right.
And they said, I had this feeling not to go in that store, not to turn down the street, not to do this, not to do that. And they went against their feeling. They went against their instinct. So that's what we have to do in all of this. We have to understand the other side sees a lot further down the road than we do.
Okay.
And so they know what's coming up. They know what's harmful for us. They know what's good for us. They know what's going to happen. And they can tell us, hey, John, move into the far left lane now, because they know that wreck is imminent where I was, and that I would have plowed right into that guy, and no telling how many people would have hit me. And so we have to listen. We have to understand. People say, well, where was the guardian angel for the people in the World Trade Center towers in 9/11? They were there. People ignored them. Because why?
Mm-hmm.
Because the bosses came out and said, everything's okay. Go back to your desks. Go back to work. It's all right. Listen, if the shit's hitting the fan, get up and run. Get the heck out of there.
Great
And
advice.
yeah, and if the people had listened to their instinct, which was get up from my desk, get the heck out of here, get the elevator down, and get out of this building, they would have still been alive. So we have to understand that in these situations, listen to what your instinct tells you to do, what your guidance tells you to do, obey it, and you're going to live a longer, healthier, safer life.
That's great. That's great advice. Bobby, do you have anything to say about that? Because I wanted to add to that, but I want to hear what Bobby thinks.
Well, no, I just had a Mitch Hedberg joke that it reminded me of. It says, you know how they say you're sitting on the by the exit of a plane. Are you willing to open that door?
Right.
But Mitch Hedberg has a joke that says, "Sir, if this plane is on fire, you'll be obstructing the exit." He goes, "If you're flammable and have legs, you're not obstructing the exit." Something like that. He goes, "You're flammable and have legs. You're never going to be obstructing an exit. You're going to get the hell out of there." God, I screwed that up. Always funnier than that.
We get it though. We get it. Yeah. Good point. That's a good point. Yeah, exactly so.
It's
exactly
the same. Like the fire exit at my building is right by our door, like in our little IT office. Somebody's like, "Do you know your exit?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's right there," and I'm not going to go down in the middle of the building either.
No, exactly.
I'll get out of this darn building.
That's it.
Let me catch up on comments, and then I have a lot to say to John. So we have
Okay,
Iowa.
great.
These are some of my famous fans. So me and Bobby were discussing. So Iowa is a musician and a poet. So he says, "Too fast to grab, you couldn't catch the rabbit." And that sounds cool. That's either some poetry or some rhymes that he wrote, or that he got from someone else. But still, I appreciate that input. And then he comments, "Bobby Dizzle, your mic is bigger than your head." LOL. But that's just your little what is that
pop
thing?
pop
Your
filter.
pop filter, yeah.
Otherwise, my mic doesn't sound good because it's cheap.
And then Biowak says, "The voice is wanted. You are harboring a fugitive." Okay, very, very interesting.
You don't ever name. You haven't named any angels you talk to, have you?
No, and people are always obsessed with what's my spirit guide's name? What's my guardian angel's name? What's this? What's that? The entities that I have communicated with over the years don't seem to be hung up on names. And a lot of times it's like, you don't need to know my name. You just need to know that I'm here and you need to listen to me. And when you have proven that their input and their guidance is true and faithful and life-saving and stable and loving and good, you don't need to know their name. I mean, maybe be nice if you did, but some of them have kind of told me, kind of intimated to me that you couldn't pronounce my name or make sense out of it if I told you, so there's no need. Others are kind of like, I'm here. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know my name, kind of like maybe an undercover cop or something, he's around, but you don't know who he is, that type of thing. So it's not necessary that we know the name. Sometimes they do give us names, but many times they don't. And we don't need to be hung up on that. We just need to know that they're there. And we know that we get that guidance. We get that input. We get that inspiration. We get that protection. And we get way too hung up on names and labels and terms and this, that, and the other. And that distracts us from the experience. Well, what's his name? Well, is he an angel or an archangel? Is he a space entity? Is he a nature spirit? And now you're hung up on classifying and categorizing everything instead of learning the lesson and getting the experience. And so I think a lot of them are that way. And a lot of the things I've interacted with over the years have been that way, that kind of anonymity to distance you from their persona and point you toward the experience and the lessons learned.
Very cool. Yeah. What's interesting, John, is I do want to get into a lot of my questions are going to have to deal with the what you just mentioned, the details that aren't really important.
Yeah.
But I think I understand, because I was going to say, okay, let me just get into the first question, and I'll explain myself. Okay, so I'm about to ask you a question, but at the same time, I don't think the answer matters. I was going to say that. I don't think I'm going to ask you some interesting questions, but honestly, I think the answers don't matter, and you're kind of missing the point by asking the questions. But I'm still going to ask because I guess I'm a scientist. I'm a biologist.
Well, that's how we communicate. That's how we learn. Yeah.
But I do. But the key thing is I do understand that the answers don't matter. That's not the point. I still want to ask. Okay, so what? The voice you heard and other people have reported. Me and Bobby just talked to someone yesterday, I think, who reported the voice.
That freaked me out when he said that.
Somebody was a worker. What was his job again?
He was a policeman going into, or
That's what it
fireman
was.
going into a building, and a pit bull attacked him.
He was a fireman going into a building, and he just heard in a voice, clear voice, that said, "Don't get bit." That's all it said.
Pit bull attacked him 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
Pit bull attack, and he had to go to the hospital. Okay. So that's very similar, and lots of people reported this. This is a common phenomenon that's reported. So my question is, here's the question. I know the answer doesn't matter, but what is that? Who is speaking? Is it your own mind predicting the future? Could it be an internal biological adaptation where we're predicting the future? Could it be, is it a discrete entity, et cetera, et cetera? What's your best understanding?
My best understanding of it most of the time is that it's an external force that's an intelligent entity that's there, that's watching over us, and that knows the scenario that's about to play out and is saying, hey, don't get bit. Now, if the guy had stopped when he heard that and said, whoa, wait a minute, and backed up and went the other way, maybe that could have been avoided.
He could have avoided the surgery and the trauma he still has. Exactly. He still has PTSD, he said, unfortunately. We hope he gets better soon. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that, there's always the confusion of, is it us or is it external? And I think that most of the time it's external. It's guidance that, operates on a higher level than we do, that, we're so stuck in the mundane and we're so easily distracted. But a lot of these entities seem to have either the love, the desire, the compassion, the task, whatever it is, to watch out for us, to look out for us, and to help us and to guide us if we'll listen and pay attention. So I think that I'd say probably 90% of the time it's external forces of some type, some external intelligence that communicates to us.
Well, thank you for that. That's a very clear, concise answer, and I appreciate that. You would be a terrible politician because your answers are direct and satisfying.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome. My follow-up is okay. My follow-up is this. First, let me explain a concept that I think is true. I think that everything in the cosmos, it kind of follows patterns at different scales. That's what I've followed. So here's one example. Okay. So if you look at our solar system, we see that we have a sphere, a round thing called the sun, our star, and then we have the planets that circularly rotate around them. Okay, well, that's a large scale. You're talking about planets in the solar system. Well, if you just go to a smaller scale, like an atom, one atom, you have a nucleus, which is, thought to be perhaps round, but it's in the center, and then floating around it, you have in an orbit, you have the planets, which are electrons and protons.
Right.
That's an example. I think that happens a whole lot. So that being said, my question is, what is our equivalent that we could understand to what these entities are doing, their job they're taking? Here's some examples to clarify. Is it the way that we sometimes adopt a highway or we take care of a pet? Is that a good enough example, or is there something better?
That's a good analogy. That's a very, very good analogy. You look at, like I look at myself. In my life, I have been totally, completely, meticulously, scrupulously honest and above board with my psychic gift. Beyond that, I'm a normal, flawed, screwed up human being like everybody else is. Okay. I've been a good guy. I've been an asshole. I've been a jerk. I've been a moron. I've taken advantage of people when I shouldn't have. I've had people taking advantage of me in spite of my gift, on and on and on and on. So normal human being.
Yes.
Now, somewhere out there in this vast spiritual world, this universe, are beings that look at me and go, you know what, this John Russell, bless his heart's in the right place. He's been totally honest with his gift. Let's watch over this guy. Let's help him out. Let's protect him. When he's not getting it, let's get him through to the other side to where he gets to a point where he can get it. And let's do that. Now, why do they do that? For the same reason that if I'm going down the road and you and Bobby are trucking along in your car and boom, you get a flat tire and I pull up, hey guys, how y'all doing? I don't know you from Adam, but I'm pulling over to help. Can I help you? Do you have a jack? No, we don't have a jack. Well, I got AAA. I'll call AAA and they'll come out and I'll stay here with you. Make sure you're okay till they get here. I think the people on the other side, the intelligences on the other side, do that for the same reason that we do. You know, hey, let me help you out here. You know, it's a normal human compassion, a normal thing that you're taught, that you grow up with. Some people learn, have more of it, a little bit more than others. But I think it's the same thing. I think it translates into the spiritual realm the exact same way. And I think some entities, some beings there, some intelligences there are just, you know, let's throw this poor old boy a bone. Let's help this guy out. And then extrapolate that to everyone on the planet. And I think we have those beings there that are available for help. Now, what do we do with that? Well, we screw it up and we invent bioweapons and we go to war and we try and see how much more efficient we can be in killing each other and how much more racist we can become and all these types of things and how much more religiously bigoted we can become. And in the meanwhile, on the other side, these people got to be just tearing their hair out going, man, what is wrong with these people? You know, we're trying to give them things that'll help and we're trying to lead them. We're trying to teach them. We're trying to do some good. We're trying to protect them, trying to guide them. And what do? You know, they run out and develop some new weapon. And it's like the late Stanton Friedman said, you know, that if you look at our society, the way you would judge it is that we spend all our money on tribal warfare and every new place is a place to do battle. Oh, we've gone into space. Let's see what we can blow up there. Let's see what kind of offensive weapons and defensive weapons we can establish in space. We're going beyond our known solar system. What can we do there? Can we get a laser up there that'll shoot back and destroy our enemies and all this? So that's what we do. And it's you know, it's a look at Russia and Ukraine right now. And it's a very, very sad state of the world that, and I don't know why it's this way. You can go to religion, that doesn't answer the questions. You can go to demonology, that doesn't answer the questions. You can go to social sciences, psychology, psychiatry. None of these things answer the question. We are broken. We are flawed. And the illustration of that is if you take 10 people and you put these 10 people together and all of them are in good health, they're all handsome and or pretty, they're all good looking, they're all athletic, they've got all the money they need, they've got all the health they need, they're not sick, they got all the food they need, they can live in any house they want, they can drive any car they want, take any vacation they want, engage in any hobby or interest that they want to. All 10 of them have that blessing and that privilege. One of those 10 is going to look at the other 9 and go, now how can I control these rascals and get some of that?
Yeah.
We're flawed. We're messed up. Why? I don't know. Every religion has its own answer. Every psychological and, you know, psychiatric thing has its own postulate, but we're flawed, you know, flawed, and it's difficult for us to get past that and to strive against that. That's one of the things we're going back to, getting quiet and listening for the answers, all that. You have to have some type of self-discipline, self-sacrifice to kind of tempt that, you know, that, like you said, we're beasts, we're wild animals, just like the other animals are. And we have to have something to rise above that and tamp that nature down, control ourselves and discipline ourselves and look towards something higher and work towards something higher. And it's very difficult to do because, just like you said, wild trees, going back to our earlier discussion, all of these distractions, you know, well, Netflix just dropped something new and here's the new Halloween ends. And, you know, geez, I come in, I'm tired. I want to get a beer and watch TV. I don't want to sit down and meditate and blah, blah, blah. And we have all these distractions, all these problems, all these impediments to really being better people and being a better humanity. And we have the mistaken impression that we have to shave our heads, wear a robe, go up in the mountains to accomplish that. And we don't. We just have to quit being jerks to each other, which is difficult, because what's the first thing that happens when you say, you know what, tomorrow morning I'm getting up, I'm going to be a better human being. I'm going to be more compassionate. I'm going to be more loving. I'm going to be more insightful. I'm going to be more forgiving. And what's the first thing that happens? Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you honk your horn, you go, you son of a, yeah. And that's it. And there we are. That's what we have to overcome. It's difficult. It's a knee-jerk reaction, and it takes some time, takes some conscious effort and some thought. And the problem is, extrapolate that to the world. The world's that way, Well, Russia's invading Ukraine. They might come to the U.S. next. Well, them sons of, this ain't going to happen. And so we have this huge tribal thing going on all the time. And it's just, it's a very difficult system to introduce meaningful spirituality into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. It's, I mean, I've been thinking, I have a duality in my head when I'm thinking to myself and when I'm talking to someone close to me. And the duality in my head is, part of me is like, I see significant flaws in humanity right now, especially in American culture, because I'm American. Right. And then that's part of me is like, this is not good. We're going down a bad path.
Yep.
And then the other part of me, the duality, is like, well, maybe this is all exaggerated. Maybe the media is making it bigger. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, really. And, maybe, I feel guilty for being critical about my country and about my current state of humanity.
Right.
But, I mean, I hear, I think talking to people like you, there is something wrong with humanity right now. We have problems.
Yeah, we do have problems. And I think what we have to do, we have to learn that saying something is wrong with America is not anti-patriotic.
Right.
We're not downgrading America. We're not wanting to get rid of America. We're not wanting to turn it into a socialist state or a communist state or this, that, and the other. We're just pointing out the realities of things that are wrong here. Look at our politicians and look how corrupt they are. Look how much power and money they have that they abuse. That's just reality. That's not being anti-American, and it's not saying down with America. It's just saying, hey, it's just like if you've got a 4,000 square foot house paid for and a fabulous job and a great looking trophy wife, and she's in love with you and you're in love with her, and you have a great dog that never makes an accident, is well behaved, and you got a teenage boy that thieves out of your wife's purse and robs out of your wallet and goes out and steals and smokes drugs, this, that, and the other. You're not saying the whole construct is bad, and you're not wanting to get rid of the whole construct. You're pointing out a problem within the construct, and you're acknowledging that there is a real issue, a real problem there within that construct.
Exactly.
And so the same here. Like, look, what was it? The Tuskegee experiment, where they did the syphilis experiment on people in the military without their knowledge and against their will. That's a problem. Okay. We're not saying we want to downgrade America or get rid of America or be an anti-American. We're saying, hey, we did some things we shouldn't have done.
Right.
And if we can't be mature enough and get to the point that we say, hey, let's call out some real problems here, then that's what keeps us from advancing and moving forward. Same way in religion. When we fail to point out the abuses within the Catholic Church, the abuses within Christian churches, all denominations, if we fail to point those out, we're not denigrating religion as a whole. We're saying there's the abuse of religion. Okay. Like when the pastors of the mega churches, send in that Social Security check for your donation. God's going to bless you. And the widow sends in her Social Security check, and guess what? Ain't got enough money to pay her bills next month. God ain't done nothing for her.
Jim Jones did the same thing.
Yeah. In the meantime, the pastor's got a private jet and, a big mansion, several houses, and this, that, and the other. He's living off the fat of the land off these people. That's wrong. You point that out and you say, that's not good. That's not okay. So I think we can look at all of these systems, all of these things, and we're not denigrating it. We're not wanting to abolish it. We're not wanting to destroy it. We're pointing out the problems, the very real problems within it, and saying this is a good system, but it has this cancer in it. Let's get rid of this cancer, and then we're healed, we're whole. And I think that's what we have to do.
I agree with you. Definitely. I want to know, Bobby, what would you, if you care to share, let me ask you very broadly, what is your opinion about, let's say, America, to be fair, since we live in America? What is your opinion of American culture and politics? Two different things. What do you think?
I think the media tries to split us up, and we're a lot more the same than we think we are.
Yes.
But I also think that we could probably put some safeguards in effect that aren't exactly communism, that would keep the lowest among us from being, on the street.
Sure.
I think we could afford that. I think one thing what scares me is not scares me, but kind of when I think about crossing the aisle is just the more extreme issues. Like if they would just get rid of those, because there's a lot of stuff on both sides that I could go with. I voted libertarian a lot in the recent years, but like when the first thing you hear somebody from Texas, Beto O'Rourke, says, "Hell yes, I'll take your AR." It's like, whoa, buddy, that's gonna be a problem. Like I don't mind you helping veterans and maybe getting a little health care to people, but let's not jump straight to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though there could be some control there.
We have to understand that, going back to what Wild Tree said, we're just kind of a higher animal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the news every day, that statement bears truth, that bears out. And in the process of developing a higher spirituality and a better life, we have to recognize that somebody's going to kick in the front door. We're going to need that AR-15 to defend our home and family. That's a reality. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's reality. Now, you can run from it. You can ignore it. You can be a super pacifist. You can say, okay, if it's my time to die, I'll die. I don't care. I'm not I'm not shooting anybody. You can adopt any kind of attitude or viewpoint toward it you want to, but it doesn't change the reality that happens every day, continuously.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to acknowledge the realities of living on this planet while we're trying to make it a better planet. And we have to acknowledge the realities that there are people out there that are good con artists, and they're going to take advantage of us while we're trying to help them. And they're going to take our help, and they're going to take our money, and they're going to take this, and they're going to take that, and they're not going to change. They're not going to do anything different. They're not going to, and they're just going to leave us and find the next sucker. And we have to acknowledge that's reality. It's not negativism. It's just dealing with the world as it is. And I always tell all my clients, I always tell people on the podcast I'm on, everything, I say, listen, if you want to succeed and stay alive on this planet, you deal with this planet as it is. And the planet's a very difficult place to live. We have hurricanes. We just had Ian here in Florida that just devastated this place like you can't even begin to imagine. There were places they said, you might as well call this a tsunami. The water was up to the second floor of places here in Florida.
Mm.
So we have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, we have volcanoes, we have earthquakes, all of these natural disasters that constantly put our lives in peril and make our lives worse and cause millions and billions of dollars worth of damage that we have to try and recuperate from, try and repair, try and overcome. We have that. Go out in nature and you'll find out real quick, there's venomous snakes that will bite your ass and not think twice about it and put you in the hospital or kill you. There's bears that will attack you and eat you without remorse, without second thought. That's who they are. That's what they do. That's their life. So if you want to succeed on this planet, you deal with this planet as it is. Now, you can praise Jesus, worship Buddha, meditate, affirm, visualize, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you go out there and sit among a bunch of bears in the forest, especially a mama with some new cubs, and do your thing, and you're going to wind up food, So we have to be practical in what we're doing. We have to face the realities of what we're doing. And it's like people get into all this big deal of like, Well, the table in front of you is not really there, and it's not solid. It's just a bunch of vibrating atoms. Okay, well, smash your fist down on it and see what happens.
Right.
You know, you can refuse to believe in gravity, but guess what? Go jump off a building, you're going to go splat. I mean, there's certain things on this planet, spiritual or not, evolved or not, this or not, that or not, we have to deal with those realities. And that bleeds over into the paranormal realm, into the psychic realm, the spiritual realm, because those things interact. And we make the mistake of thinking one thing transcends the other or overcomes the other, and it doesn't. You know, it does not. Now we learn to better get along and better how to interlace those dimensions, but one does not supersede or overcome the other.
Very true. No, I couldn't agree with what you guys are saying. I know it's not very entertaining for a bunch of people just to agree with each other, but I do agree with Bobby and John what you're saying. And I wanted to talk about. There's 3 topics I keep trying to memorize. I want to talk about the spiritual aspects of UFOs, of the dead, and of animals. So let me ask you first about the UFOs. Okay. So, okay, I guess I'll ask you first a broad question before I move on to the more detail of the question. Okay. So I think that UFOs are probably caused by a number of different things. Some of them are, I think, discrete, independent, intelligent entities. But some of them aren't. Some of them are like, a laundry list of things. But so it looks like you agree with that. Okay, so then my question is now that, are some of the UFOs, are some of the pilots of the UFOs, do you think some of them, are they fully in the spiritual world? Or in another question, are some of them, do you think, just biological and they just understand the spiritual world? Those 2 questions. What do you?
I understand what you're asking, and I have no clue how to answer it because we just don't know. We have a cottage industry of people that are making a living telling you all the answers.
Yes.
The Space Brothers come from Pleiades. They're the Pleiadians, and they do this and they do that and blah, blah, blah. And there's this group and they come. Bullshit. We don't know. We don't have anything to hang our hats on. We've got a whole lot of speculation. We've got a whole lot of cottage industry people telling us how the cow ate the cabbage, and that don't pan out. We don't know. What we do know is that with the UFOs, there seems to be paranormal occurrences that manifest in, around, before, after the UFO appearance. So there seems to be that connection with it. Now, how does that come about? Is it because these are spiritual beings manifesting somehow? Are they physical beings that have learned laws way beyond what we can even imagine, and they can manipulate several dimensions and realities and pop in and out? Are the ships just cloaked and that's all it is? We don't know. We don't have these answers reliably.
Right.
Now, I believe somewhere somebody in our government does. And the reason I believe that is simple extrapolation. Decades ago, I watched a documentary where one of our former CIA chiefs, one of our former CIA heads, was talking about our technological capabilities. And he said, the SR-71 Blackbird, which was our premier spy plane at the time. And for those that don't know the SR-71, it was a fantastic, monumental beast. When it set on the runway, it dripped fluid. It leaked gas. It leaked jet fuel because it was so loose that jet fuel would literally just sit there and pour out onto the runway before takeoff. When it got up to speed and got up into subspace, it flew so high it flew in subspace. And at that altitude, the friction is so hot that it heat annealed the plane and it sealed everything and all the leaks closed up. A Reader's Digest guy actually went up in the SR-71 and the guy said, "Put your glove against the window." And he touched it and immediately had to pull it back. The window was so hot. So this was just an incredible machine. It flew in subspace. It flew so fast, nothing could catch it. Nothing could take it down. And the CIA head said now, in the SR-71 Blackbird era, and it had this camera that flew over and it took pictures of all the terrain it flew over. And he said, in the SR-71 Blackbird era, if you went to a golf putting green and put a golf ball here and 2 feet over here, you put another golf ball. When the SR-71 flew over in subspace at speed and took a photograph, in that photograph, when it was developed, you could clearly read which one was a Titleist and which one was a McGregor on the golf balls.
Wow.
And he said,
Really?
That's decades old technology. Imagine what we can do now.
Wow.
So somebody somewhere in the government has got to know what the hell's going on. We have all this incredible, phenomenal advanced technology. Now, look, what we see out there is the tip of the iceberg to what we actually have and what we can actually do. Anytime the government reveals some big something, that's a tenth, and the 90% is below the waterline. Oh, look at this, guys. We can do this, and we're all aghast and agog and wow. Well, guess what? The real wow is 90% underwater. We don't even have a clue. I mean, they're just revealing to us, let's throw them a bone. Let's throw them there. So somewhere, someone has got to know what's going on with this stuff. Why don't they reveal it to us? There's a lot of speculation, a lot of, ruminating there on why this hasn't occurred, and nobody really absolutely knows. But, I'm sure somebody has to know.
I'm planning on doing like a whole panel show about that particular subject. Why can't we know?
Why can't we know?
Hey, I sent you a picture of me and the Blackbird there.
One thing that we're always told is this will destroy our economy.
Yeah.
Well, no, it won't, because if we adapt alien technology, it's going to take a long time to trickle down into all areas of our economy. So it's going to be a years long, maybe a decades long process. It's not going to trash our economy immediately. Well, it's going to destroy the church. It's going to destroy religion. No, it's not, because I guarantee you, if a craft landed on the White House lawn tomorrow, there's going to be a group of Christians with their Bibles running over there, ringing around the craft, holding hands, going, Lord Jesus, save these aliens. It's not going to destroy religion. If you believe in religion now, you're going to believe in religion then. It's going to destroy our social structure or whatever. No, it's not. Most of us are sitting here, we believe in this, we know this, we've seen them. When are you going to tell us the truth? So all of those excuses don't hold water. And it's time, it's like, hey, we're grown-up folk here. We can handle a whole lot. When I was a kid, I lived with, here's your nuclear explosion protection. A nuclear bomb's coming, and what do? You duck and cover. You get under your wooden desk, and you hunker down like this, and that's going to save you from the nuclear blast. It's like, come on, we're resilient people. We've lived through all this nonsense. We've got Russia invading Ukraine, threatening to use nuclear weapons, threatening the West with nuclear weapons if we intervene. We're pretty resilient people. We're pretty tough people. We've lived through a lot on this planet. So you're telling us we can't handle the truth about UFOs? Come on. What is the reason behind this nonsense?
We've gotten used to a lot.
We've gotten used to a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
like I said, the Earth's a rough place to live. Here in Florida, we're decimated now because of Ian. People are helping other people. People are banding together. People don't know other people. They're going out and rescuing them. They're helping them. We're trying to do everything we can to take care of each other and all of this. We are a resilient people and a tough people. And so, UFOs, come on, bring it, man. We can handle it. Give us the truth.
It's just a little. Come on.
Yeah.
I like how they revealed them to us last year, and then all of a sudden they act like, well, it's not an alien, but it's a UFO.
Yeah.
Like, here's your ice cream and a spoon.
Yeah, but at the same time they go, well, it's not our technology and it's not their technology. So what does that leave us? It's their technology, So, but
I hate to give them any credit. Okay, so this is probably not true, but it's almost 90% not true. But if I was going to be charitable, I would say the government is choosing disclosure, but they're choosing to do it at a drip, one drop at a time, a snail's pace. Yeah. And I don't know. That's the part. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose. That is what's happening. It is happening very slowly. I'm not sure if it's by design.
Very slowly.
I'm not sure if it's by design. If it is by design, I would say I think that's smart. I think, and I'd rather have that than no disclosure. I'd rather have a plan to slowly build our immunity
Mhm.
to this idea, to minimize the shock, than not have it at all.
Well,
But like I
at
said,
this stage of the game, and I'm 68, so the road's going to run out of bricks down the road here a little ways. And at this stage of the game, I'd just rather have it all, you know?
it's true. No,
And
it's
and if
true.
it's like, yeah, just give me the damn truth. And if it's like there are three-breasted aliens, just like in the sci-fi movies, and they're going to come rape you in your sleep, and you're going to wake up, and there's going to be a big tongue down your throat. Bring it. Let's go. Let's do it. Let me know. Come on. I'll either be down with sickness, or I'll put my cross above my door and lock my door and go to bed. Whatever. It's like, come on, give me the
Sheep's
truth.
blood. Since the 40s, we've had, mum's the
Right.
word on UFOs and
Yeah.
paranormal. But it seems like since, 2016, since guys like us, I'm comparing us to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But the people that had those experiences never had a platform before that you could just get on and just talk epic shit to anybody that would listen. And got people like Rogan that have millions of followers that find Dave Fravor and Cuz from today. They're like, yeah, we saw them. And like, before that, the government's like, well, shit, we got to say something.
Yeah.
There's a video on the internet.
The great thing now is that, beforehand you had the wackos, like I remember this one lady, her story was that she would get up at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom. While she's sitting on the pot, a space alien would appear and download information into her brain while she's taking her crap or whatever at 2 a.m. Come on, and I mean, we've got all that nonsense out there to wade through, but now we've got people, there's the SR-71. Now we've got people, credible people, vetted people in government, in science, in the military that are coming forth and saying, hey, here it is. And we've got, the nose camera footage from the fighter planes. We've got this, we've got that, we've got so on. So now we have credible people coming forward, and credible people telling their stories, and credible people giving us this. So we're past the tinfoil hat stage now, where we eclipsed that, and we've got some reality here. And there's still people that don't want to deal with it and don't want to bring it out, which I just don't understand. It's like, let's find out what's going on here. Let's put this piece of the puzzle into play.
That was the scariest part about COVID, is all this conspiracy stuff came true.
It did. And, look, we have to look at, we can't deny COVID. Okay. But yes, we are so resilient. We can't deny COVID, but we have to say, look at the friggin' way this was handled. I saw a montage that someone put together not from left-wing news sources, not from fake news sources, not from right-wing sources, just from ABC, NBC, CBS News. They cobbled all these things together with Fauci and Fauci's interviews. And they did the left screen, right screen, left screen, right screen. And Fauci from the get-go was, we have to wear masks. Masks will prevent this disease. Next screen, masks are useless. Masks won't work. Next screen, we all should be wearing masks everywhere, even in our own homes. Next screen, the virus is so small that it'll escape through all the masks. Masks are useless. Da, da, da. Next screen, if one mask is good, 2 or 3 might be even better. Next screen, masks are useless. Masks won't help children. Next screen, masks will help the children from getting on and on and on and on. So this thing's been mishandled from the get-go. The CDC has put out, going to kill you today, you're okay tomorrow. I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but look at what we've got in the news. We've got this thing kicked. It's on the run. Oh my God, here comes a new variant that's going to kill us all. Well, no, we're going to be okay because we've got the vaccines. We've got this thing kicked. It's on the run. Oh my God, here comes another thing. We're going to die tomorrow. And it's just this constantly. It's like, guys, what is it? It's not that America doesn't want the vaccine. It's not that we don't want to take care of our health. It's not that we don't want to prevent things and do what we can. It's like, idiots, you're telling us 360 different things from one day to the next. What is it? What's the truth? What stands? And Then we see vetted, verifiable, credible, bona fide scientists, doctors, virologists, and researchers that say something opposing to the status quo, and they get banned. Their videos are taken off Facebook, off YouTube, off all these other places. And so any opposing point of view by credible, vetted scientists is no, you can't say that. We're not going to, no, we're not going to have that. So we see that and we go, oh, well, I'm conspiracy. So all they've done by knocking those people off the air is contribute to the conspiracy theory. So the thing has been grossly mishandled from the get-go. I've got links that I sent to people where there were news stories where there was a motorcyclist that died in a motorcycle crash, cause of death, COVID. And so we've got these vetted news stories of all this idiotic crap that happened. And it's like people are looking at this day in and day out going, you know what? Come on. You know, I mean, if I came to you guys' house, we're all sitting around, we're having a beer. First day I show up, I go, I'm John Russell. I'm a psychic. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Next day I come and I show up and I go, you know what? I'm an astronaut. Really? Well, yeah, I thought you were a psychic. Well, yeah, but I was also oh, okay. Next day I show up, you know what? I'm a motorcycle racer. I did the Isle of Man a bunch of times. And
the Isle of Man.
Well, John, wait a minute, man. What? And next day I'm an FBI agent. The day after that I'm a doctor. And the next, it's like, you know, whoa, wait a minute, dude, cool it. And so we're having the same reaction to all the stuff that we're fed, you know, from the supposed informed sources, that the wind just blows a different direction every day. And people have just had enough of it. They're like, you know, give me something. You know, I don't care what it is. Just give me something and stick with it. And then we got to the point with this dystopian lifestyle that we were living. I was flipping through the channels and I saw a baseball game during the early height of COVID. And there were cardboard cutouts of people in the stands. And they had a baseball track. Like you had laugh tracks on sitcoms. They had a baseball track. And when the guy would hit the ball at the base, the baseball track would go off. And there was nobody live there cheering. It was a soundtrack with cardboard cutouts in the stands. And I thought, George Orwell must be sitting there going, yep. How dystopian, how crazy, how insane is that to live? How can we live that way?
That was
and
so
we see all these ridiculous stratagems that we've lived through. And it's a wonder anybody believes anything the government or science or medicine says. You know, I mean, it's just, that's not to denigrate science or medicine. Look at what we've been fed. Look at how the flag is blown, you know, from day to day to day. And so that's what we're dealing with.
Bobby, do you have anything to say? Also, Bobby, I don't want to keep you. I know you had a time limit. You could go.
I'll go a couple more minutes. I was listening. He got on a run there. I wasn't turning it off.
No, that was a great run. Also, I've never listened to something on a show I've ever done and been like, I'm going to clip that. That's so good.
Yeah.
But when you went off about the three-breasted women and everything, I was like, okay, that's the first thing I'm going to clip ever because that's really good.
Hey, the TikTok clips drive views.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
I'm a believer.
And here's Nina, who was laughing at your. She said this during your hilarious. I don't want to call it a rant because it's not a rant. Your monologue.
Oh, it was true. It sounds like me. It sounds like me when I drive into work. How about the people that still like? What is the meme that just went through? I support the current thing. Those people. Those people are NPCs, man, and I hate that I know a couple of them. Like, have you not thought for a second? And it makes me feel better that the people who I knew were like far left 10 years ago are now like coming around going, what in the hell is happening?
Yeah. You know, and that's the problem with us politically. We want to adhere to something that's correct. And that's whether we're political, we're scientific, we're religious, we're spiritual. We've got to find the thing that's right. And then, by God, we've got to defend that by killing our neighbor if we have to. So, Jesus came down and he put these things in the desert, and this guy found them and he developed this thing. And by God, that's right. And all the rest of y'all are going to hell. And it's that way with all religions, with all spirituality, with politics. I saw this meme on Facebook the other day. This guy's in this attack boat with a machine gun blasting away, and somebody puts the caption, "There's Democrats in the other boat," and it's like all this stuff. And it's like, what we got to understand is we think we're going to get the thing right if we become a Christian, a Baptist, a Buddhist, a spiritualist, a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, an oil man, a stock trader, whatever. No, we're all people. We're all in this together. And it doesn't matter what our orientation is, or our race, our ethnicity, or this and the other. We all live on the same planet, and we all want about the same basic thing. And where we get tripped up is, I've got the answer. And if you believe this way, you're going to be all right. And the people that don't believe this way, they're not going to be all right. And they may even come after us, and we may have to kill them to preserve the right way. Jim Jones in the jungle, 900 some odd dead drinking the poison Kool-Aid because he had the right way. The people that the Hale Bopp comet came, what was that religion?
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, Heaven's Gate.
Major Applewhite, whatever his name was.
Yeah, and they, we've got the right way.
Marshall Applewhite.
Our problem is we carried that into politics. Well, I'm a Republican. I got the right way, and them Democrats are the evil. They're the enemy. Those are people. Those may be your sister, your cousin, your mama, your daddy. I talked to a woman one time, and I'm well versed in the Christian faith because I grew up in it. And I became an ordained minister, studied the Bible inside, outside, upside down, was an associate pastor of a small church for a brief period of time. So I know that rascal. So I asked this woman one time who was a devout Christian, and I said, let me ask you something, because she was talking about, holding that line, being there, holding that line for Jesus and being hardcore and being da-da-da-da. I said, let me ask you something. I said, in the Old Testament, God commanded people to kill people all the damn time. I don't like your looks. I don't like your religion. I don't like your race. Don't like where you live. Don't like your face. Go wipe them some bitches out. There's a scripture, look it up, in the Old Testament, and God commanded the people to go into this village and kill every single person that was there, kill the men, kill the women with children, run the swords through their bellies, and don't leave alive anything that pisses against the wall. Kill the damn dogs too. That's in the Bible. Look it up.
Right.
So I asked this gal, I said, listen, I said, you believe that word of God? Oh, yeah, I do. You believe it? Yes. We got to do what that Bible tells us. Yes, sir. I said, okay. Now, look it up in your Bible, and you probably know the verse. And God said, go in here. And I said, so God comes down to you through his prophet, and he says, this pregnant lady next door that you've been friends with and you like and all this and all that, guess what? That bitch ain't cutting it for me. You're going to have to go over there with a sword. You're going to have to kill this bitch. I said, you going to do that? She was all, no. That's your religion. That's what your God tells you to do. There's no out. There's no escape. There's no exclusion. Go kill this son of a bitch. I said so. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to this person that you've swapped brownies with and traded lunch with and sit and talked with over tea or wine or whatever. Now you're going to go run a sword through their belly? Oh, well, so when you personalize it, then it makes it real. And it gets us out of this vague religious concept or spiritual concept or political concept or whatever. And it's like, I was sitting talking with some buddies of mine one night, and they got into this, by God named Jesus, America, kill these fag son bitches, and goddamn it. I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute, wait a minute. And this guy, boy, I'd kill every fag. A fag laid a hand on me, I'd kill him. Every fag, somebody. I said, wait a minute, let me ask you something. I said, you got a brother. You love this brother. God damn this son bitch of your flesh and blood. You've experienced more in life than any jillion people could have. You've been through the fire together. You love this man. This man is intelligent. He's smart. He's honest. He's capable. One day he comes up to you and he goes, you know what, bro? I'm gay. I love men. And what are you going to do? This man that you've loved your entire life, this man that you respect as intelligent, capable, honest, good of heart, what are you going to do? Now you're going to kill him because he's gay? Now you're going to shun him because he's gay? He's still your brother. He's still the man that you loved all your entire life. But now he makes this admission that you don't like, so you're going to get rid of him. And boy, this guy was like, well, I was like, yeah, when you personalize it, makes it a little bit different. And that's what we all have to understand. And all of our belief systems, put your mama there, put your brother there, put your daddy there, put your best friend there. And then let's see how that.
No, that's good to remember. Yeah, it's almost like I feel like there's too much I mean, I'm not the first one to say it, there's too much polarization, too many opposite ends. And I think that the truth is in the middle, obviously, most times, unless you're extreme cases. But I wanted to move on because I still need to ask you about the dead and about animals in the spiritual world.
Oh, I got some animal stories for you. I got animal ghosts for you, brother.
Well, great. But Bobby, I was going to see if did you need to say anything, or how you doing?
No. I was going to duck out. I got to be at work a little bit earlier in the morning, so I was going to go to sleep. I'm writing the timestamp down because I'm going to
Bobby, appreciate you, man.
I'm going to finish this sucker tomorrow. 1 hour and 1 minute. I will be there first thing. Yeah. Thanks for being on the show too, John. We'll keep in touch. This isn't the last.
No problem. We will do that. Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
You ain't heard the last of Ernest T. Bass.
There you go.
See you. See you, Wild.
I love that.
Yeah, Bobby. All right.
Well, so on we go.
Yeah, along we go. We wish Bobby a restful sleep. Okay, so the dead. I have a question about the dead. Okay, once again, these questions. I just gotta I gotta say this a disclaimer. Before I ask this question, I don't think the answer really matters, and I think I'm missing the point by asking. But I still want to know because I know your answer will be interesting, so I still want to ask you.
Yeah.
The question is, okay. I do believe, I've come to understand and believe that there is an afterlife.
Yes.
That's about as far as I can take it. I don't know anything else about what happens, the mechanics, the bureaucracy of the dead.
Right.
But I think there is a bureaucracy, I suspect, because there's bureaucracies in nature, in food chains, in life, there are bureaucracies, natural bureaucracies, rules. And so it must apply in the dead. Okay. So then, so we're agreeing so far. So then the question is, I guess the first thing is incarnation. Is incarnation real? And I guess the reason why I asked, not that it matters, but it does seem like some of the dead can communicate with us directly.
Oh, sure.
So it feels like, now I may be thinking about time the wrong way, but it seems like a dead person couldn't be reincarnated and also be talking to you as a dead spirit at the same time.
Right.
It feels like they would contradict each other. But I guess my first question is, does it contradict each other? Or is it am I just overcomplicating it? Some people die and they eventually become reincarnated. Some of them don't become reincarnated and they just communicate with us.
I don't think you're overcomplicating it. And it's a good question. And I think the issue of reincarnation, I haven't found anything to hang my hat on there.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. There have been a few, very, very few, compelling case stories that you wanted to read and look at and go, that's pretty interesting. But the issue there, as with so many of these things, was this a person that lived 300 years ago, died, came back in a body, and they're remembering that life and they can point you to those things? Or is this a person with an exceptional psychic gift, an exceptional intuition, an exceptional receptivity that can go to a place, receive the vibrations from that place, and accurately tell you how life was there, and mistakenly think that, oh, since I can remember that or know that so accurately, I must have lived there.
Like a remote viewing, almost like they're involuntarily remote viewing. Yeah.
And so we don't really have the answer to that. You know, we have a few, very few compelling cases, but again, they could just simply be this person's got a real good psychic intuition or a real good ability to pick up on the energies and environments of a place. And if you'll notice, a lot of these instances, not all of them, but a lot of them are young kids.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you're younger, you have a more open receptivity to the other side,
right,
and to the experiences of the other side. And why do you lose that when you get older? Well, very simple. Little Johnny, where's my earrings? Well, I didn't take them, Mama. Well, I laid them right there on the dresser. Well, I didn't take, well, they're gone. They don't just disappear. Well, I think I saw Grandpa come in and pick them up and look at them and take them with him. Now, you know you're lying. You know, Grandpa isn't here. Grandpa's dead. And he's not going to come and steal my earrings. Now, tell me the truth and you won't get in trouble. So we start shutting down. Oh, the other side's bad news. The other side gets me in trouble. The other side causes controversy. So we start losing our receptivity to the other side. So when you're a young child, you've got all these psychic senses working, and maybe you're just picking up on things. And in your youth, you misinterpret that as, oh, well, maybe that was me that was there. You know, maybe I experienced that. Maybe I lived there, and that's why I remember this. We don't know. And there's a lot of really careful research that needs to be done there. So far, I haven't found anything about reincarnation I'm going to hang my hat on.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, that was an unexpected answer, but yeah, no, I completely understand what you're saying, and it sounds very reasonable, and that's great. We could continue from this point. It's an unexpected turn in the road, but it's interesting. Okay, so moving on with the same question then. Let's assume now that there's just not enough evidence for reincarnation, which I could fully agree with. I am familiar with the idea. I know Buddhism promotes it or is part of the religion. But that's as much as I know, and everything you said is true. Like, I know some kids report it, but it's true that it could just be a involuntarily remote viewing and confusing the two.
Exactly.
So that being said, then what does happen when we die? You know, what are the phases? You know how a butterfly starts off as a larva, and an egg, then a larva, then a pupa, and emerges, and then eventually dies and turns into dirt. What is this cycle for a soul? You know, what happens, do you think?
As far as I can determine, because I have connected with people on the other side, and the best that I've been able to determine is that when we die, we know that we're dead. We're aware that we're dead. I always get tickled at people who say, oh, the ghost hanging around, they don't know they're dead, and you got to send them the light. The analogy that I was given, that I was shown one night during a lucid dream, this entity came to me and he says, I'm going to teach you what it's like to die. I said, okay. So he said, so you will understand the mechanical process of crossing over.
That sounds really great. That's like exactly what I want to learn, the mechanical process of crossing over.
Okay. And he said, okay, if you're driving a car and that car runs out of gas, it don't go. It's sitting there, it's stuck. You know it's not going to go. You got to get out of the car. And he said, you open the door and you get out of the car. You're aware that you're out of the car. You're not in the car anymore. So he said, this is the death process. Your physical body is the car. You're driving the car. You're driving the physical body. The physical body runs out of gas, ceases to work. You leave the physical body. You know you're out of the car. You know you've stepped out of the physical body. You know you're on the other side. You know you're dead.
Wow.
Or your physical body's dead.
That's fascinating. But yeah, it's very clear. It makes sense.
Yeah. And he said, so you're on the other side. And then from what I'm able to ascertain from the people on the other side I've communicated with, they retain their memories, they retain their knowledge, their senses of humor, so on and so forth. And they communicate that, make that evident back to the people that they're communicating with here. They do see what we're doing. There was a radio show that I was on as a regular for many years, and they had a new DJ come to the station. And so this gal was like, well, and that's the first thing anybody asks of a psychic that's a guest on the show is like, what do you got for me? Do you see anything for me?
Right.
I said, well, give me a minute. I'll see if anything comes through. So we went through some calls, went through some things, and went to a break. And I said, I do have something for you. I said, your grandmother came to me, and I described her grandmother accurately. And she said, yeah, that's how she looked. And I said, your grandmother comes to me, and she says that in your bedroom, you have basically kind of a little altar set up to her. And there's like a candle, and it smells with this fragrance. And she smells that, and I named the fragrance. And I said, you've got a picture over there and some other things. And it's basically kind of a little altar to her. And I said, you come and you sit there and you look at her picture and you talk to her and you light that candle, and she smells that aroma and she sees you doing that.
Mm.
And the other DJs told me that she nearly jumped up and ran out of the studio. It freaked her out so much because that was exactly what she did. She had set up this little altar in her bedroom to her grandmother with this particular scented candle that smelled exactly like I described, and so on and so forth. So her grandmother was like, I see that. I know you're doing this. I appreciate that. I love you. I'm around you. So they do see what we do, and so on and so forth. And then also, from what I've learned is that there are things on the other side where you continue to learn, you continue your education, if you will. I've never believed in the concept of an earthbound spirit. Oh, they're stuck here, because when you get on the other side, you choose where you're going to be and what you're going to do. And if you've lost your husband and he's on the other side and he appears to you, and then some medium comes to you and says, oh, well, he's earthbound. He can't leave. So you need to send him to the light. He's not earthbound. He loves you. He wants to come back, let you know that he's there. He's watching over you. You've seen him for 15 seconds and assumed he's earthbound. In the meantime, he may be around the world doing something else. He may be in another higher plane of dimension, learning something, practicing something, doing something else, going on about his life. And then he comes back again a day or two later. So I don't believe in the concept of earthbound. I believe that we have the concept of free will, choice, what we're going to do, where we're going to be on the other side, so on and so forth. I think what a lot of people mistake for earthbound is that there are apparently movies, if you will, that replay in the atmosphere over and over and over and over about a traumatic incident that happened there, so that it's kind of a spiritual record of what went on. And people may see the people or entities involved with that and think that they're earthbound or they're stuck there or whatever. And all it is just a movie playing over and over and over.
Wow. That's really interesting. Well, man, that's so deep. That's a lot of deep stuff, and we're definitely somewhere in the rabbit hole at this point.
There you go.
But we are going to go deeper.
Oh yeah.
Going.
Oh yeah.
So okay. I guess let me see. There's a lot. I don't want to move on from this stage. So let me see. That's the only thing I could think about. So here's my next question. Okay, as far as you know, because I understand these are your opinions. These are your best hypotheses of what's happening at this time, and your might change. I don't know, but it's possible.
Right.
Because that's how I feel. When I have a strong idea, I feel like, hey, I could be wrong, and I could change my thoughts. I'm not like militaristic about what I think.
Right.
But in your opinion, is there something after this spiritual stage? Is this the end result of a human soul? Is there something totally different? We've ruled out, in this example, reincarnation.
Yeah.
So is that the end result for infinity?
I think that we continue to live, that we continue to grow, that we continue to move forward, that we continue to go to whatever that next stage is. And there may be several progressions there in that spiritual realm, just like we're a fetus, we're born, we're an infant, we're a toddler, we're a child, we're a teenager, we're a young adult, we're an adult, we're old. So all of these phases that we have here, I think there are phases like that on the other side.
Okay.
I don't know that for an absolute certainty, but I've been given glimpses of that that kind of indicate that it may be that way, and that there may be several stages, several dimensions, several possibilities that we move on into, grow into, and so on and so forth. So, and that's, take that and some Starbucks coffee, and that's what it's worth.
No, I
But
think it's good. No, I think it's
yeah,
good. It's kind of like talking about going deep into the rabbit hole. I think a question like that, we're really pushing the limits of our understanding because we're going
we are
way beyond our experiences. We're going past death, basically. We've passed death, and we're
exactly.
pushing it further.
And we just don't know with a certainty, and that's what the bottom line is that we have to come back to. There
Mhm.
are experiences I've had on the physical realm, witnessed by others, recorded, audio, video, photographs. That's reality. We know that occurs. We know that exists. So we can extrapolate a lot of things from that. There are things in my 50 plus years of practice that I know to be real. I know to be a certainty. I know you can take it to the bank. And then there are areas that go beyond that, where we go into that speculation and where we have to admit we just don't know. We've got some guidelines, we've got some really good guesses, we've got some intuition, but we don't know. And I get really frustrated with all the big names that claim they know,
Hmm.
because they don't.
Right.
We just don't. If we knew, all of this would be solved.
It's true.
We wouldn't be sitting here having this interview if we knew. But
Yeah.
there's so many things out there that for everything that you learn, you wonder why it doesn't apply all of the time, and why you can't fix things all of the time. Like, I'll give you an example with healing.
Okay.
Ever since I've been a kid, I have had multiple bizarre chronic health issues.
Oh.
And I have been able to successfully heal other people. Can't do a damn thing for myself.
Wow.
And there are some people that I have worked on with healing energy that I just knew it was going toward them, transmitting to them, infusing them. Didn't seem to make a difference. Other people I could sit with for 5 minutes and they were like, oh my God, my headache's gone, my back's better, this is gone. I'll give you one example that was really, really incredibly bizarre. I stayed with a buddy of mine for a while, and he told me, this was his reaction. He said, John, I believe in everything you do. I believe you're legit. I believe you're honest. But if in my house you feel anything, sense anything, see anything, I don't want to know. It scared him to death. So I was like, okay. So he was a good drinking buddy. We'd go to the bar, we'd go drinking. And at this one bar, chain restaurant, we were sitting there at the bar, and we knew all the owners, we knew all the wait staff. They were mostly young college kids. And this gal came in, and she come over and flopped down at the bar by us. She goes, oh my God, would you look at my lip? And she had this cold sore, this fever blister that had started on her lip. And it was like a goiter. It was like huge,
Oh my gosh.
gigantic, and inflamed and red. And it's like, look, even if it's not that big, that if you take the fever blister, the cold sore medicine, that it's going to be a week, maybe two, before it goes away, right?
Hmm.
Even if it's not huge, and even if it's not big. Now, this thing was like angry, like just she goes, look at me, I'm a monster. And we were kind of laughing, trying not to laugh, because we knew her, we liked her. We're like, okay. And I said, hey, tell you what, let me do something. She goes, what? I said, it's an old Indian trick. I passed it off that away. And I said, let me put some energy into your lip. She goes, yeah, okay, whatever. So right there in the crowded bar, I put energy into my hands, into my finger, and I hold my finger about this far away from her lip. And I send this healing energy into her lip. And I go, are you feeling anything? She goes, yeah, it's tingling and getting hot. What are you doing? I said, oh, it's an old Indian trick. So I kept doing it a little bit, And so she went about her business. And the next day, very next day, me and my buddy come up to the bar. We're sitting there drinking. She runs in, flops over down on the bar by us again, and goes, my God, look at my lip. What did you do? And it was totally, completely, 100% healed, smooth, no evidence of anything there. Totally gone. So I've been able to do that for some people, and then for some people, apparently nothing. Why? And
Right.
that's one of the problems that we have to deal with in working with all of this. Is like, why is it sporadic? What are the conditions that makes it work? Sometimes it doesn't. Why does this person get it? This person doesn't. This person gets healed. This person dies. And so these are the issues we have to deal with. And as a psychic reading for my clients, I've been able to tell people, you know, Spirit tells me your uncle's going to die. You need to go spend time with him, because they knew that that's what they needed to hear. Other people, I would tell them, you know, how old's your dad? Well, he's getting up there. Well, you really should think about getting a ticket and go and spend some time with him. And they would get it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. And for all of that, I had a client that had been a client for years and years and years and years. And I was doing a reading for her, and all the other side would tell me over and over and over. And they had me repeat it to her during the reading constantly. Was like, all the things you love, do them this month repeatedly. Don't go to the movies once, go to the movies 10 times. If you have a favorite meal, eat it every week. You know, on and on and on and on. And they kept repeating that. I thought, well, this is really strange. And then several weeks later, I get this phone call out of the blue, and it's her parents, and she's died.
Wow.
And so that's why the other side told me to tell her that. Enjoy all these things this month, do them repeatedly, because they knew she was checking out. They didn't tell me.
Wow.
I had no clue. And I was astonished when they called me and said, so we have all these things, all these vagaries, all these uncertainties, all these bizarre scenarios to deal with. And that's why I get so pissed when somebody, oh, I know how the other side is. I know how this works. I know. No, you don't. We don't know. We haven't got it perfected. It's not something that we can count on. It's the other side plays peekaboo with us, and we don't know why.
Right. That's crazy. Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for that, man. That's so deep. That's really deep. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to everything you said. I'm just kind of processing it all because it's very deep information. Let me ask you this now. What is the spiritual status of a person before they're born? What's going on with the soul before a birth? What do you think's happening?
No clue. You know, we have the idea that we are a soul, an entity, and an intelligence, something that's out there that somehow implants into this fetus, this physical body.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that occurs simultaneously with conception. We don't know if it occurs after conception and we come in. We don't know if it occurs before conception and we're already there. We don't know. But the concept is that our life somehow comes into that physicality.
Mm-hmm.
And it upsets me with people that want to say, well, it's just a lump of flesh, just a fetus, there's nothing to it. If you walk down the sidewalk and there's a baby bird that's fallen out of the nest, doesn't even have its feathers yet, and it's laying there on the sidewalk dead, you don't go, look at that pomegranate. Look at that plum. Look at that watermelon. What do? You look at it. Look at that baby bird. It's a baby bird. It's a bird. You recognize it's a fucking bird. And you say, oh, look at the poor little thing. It never even got a chance to live life and fly. It's a bird. So likewise, we are beings. We are humans. We are people in the womb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take a fetus out of the womb. Now, I'm not pro-abortion, anti-abortion. I'm not going there. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying you take a fetus out of the womb, put it over here. It's got a head, it's got eyes, got fingers, got hands, got feet, got toes. That's a person. Just like if you found a baby bird on the sidewalk, oh, poor little bird. It's a bird. It's not an elephant. It's not a glob. It's not a watermelon. It's a bird. You take a fetus, you go, oh, look at the person. It's a person. Got a head, got eyes, got hands, got arms, got legs, got feet, got toes. It's a person. So I think we have to understand and respect that is a life in there, a viable being in there, and that somewhere along the way, whether before, during, or after, it is possessed of a spirit, our soul, our intelligence, our that becomes us. that becomes our personality, that becomes the thing that is in us that drives the meat machine, that merges with the meat machine and gives us the ability to do all these things and interact this way. And, you know, they've done the experiments where they said, okay, the body has a soul. When they've weighed people that have died, you know, they're a few ounces lighter after the spirit leaves the body, all this type of thing. And I have held the hand of the dying. And when they crossed over, when they passed over, I cannot describe to you the incredible spiritual sensation of beings, invisible beings, being there in that room in such a heavy way that you could feel them physically, and the sense of peace that came in that room. And everyone that was there felt and experienced the exact same thing. So we have this, there's this continuum of life, and where it starts, where it begins exactly, we don't know. You know, is it before we're even in the womb? Is it during we're in the womb that the spirit comes in? Sometime afterward, whatever. We don't know, but we know that those things cohabitate, and we become this, and we are a spiritual and a physical being. And I think we need to have a reverence and an understanding of that process. And again, not pro-abortion, not anti-abortion, that doesn't even enter into it. I'm just saying, let's respect the process, respect who and what we are, and respect what we become. And again, if you see a baby bird laying on the sidewalk, it's a bird. You know it is.
Yeah.
If there's a little baby snake that's dead out there, you say, oh, look at the poor little baby snake that's dead.
You know, so, it's interesting what you're saying, because, and it's a great answer, by the way. But, you know, as a scientist, like I'm a biologist, I literally study life.
Right.
So, but I've never been in a position, I've never had children that I know of, or gotten anybody pregnant. Let's put it that way. No, I've never really had to think about life. What does it mean? When did it start? About abortion? But, so not personally, but as a biologist, the questions that people ask are directly, they have to do with life. That's just right up my alley.
Exactly.
So I remember I was talking to a friend in college. I think we're talking about abortion, basically. And he's a biologist too. We were just throwing ideas back and forth. I was just trying to get some kind of foothold on the issue. And then I think he brought it up. I think he's the one who brought it up. But he just pointed out that if you look at an embryo, so you have an embryo, whatever development size, you have an embryo that's 1 second old. You know, that embryo it has a goal. Yes. And the goal is to be born and to not die.
Yeah. Survival.
And now there are some exceptions. So let me give you another example. I've thought about it a little bit more.
Right.
Another way of looking at it is like, imagine a beach full of baby sea turtles coming out of the egg, right? Now, it would be wrong, I think, for me to say that all of those baby sea turtles, like, their main goal is to live and thrive. And because, let me explain why. Because I understand some of those baby sea turtles may be deformed, or they may have a disease, you know.
Right.
So if some baby turtles come out of that beach and they have a huge, like, you know, genetic issue, their heart's broken, I think they would still probably want to stay alive as long as possible.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But eventually they wouldn't be able to. They would have to die.
Succumb, yeah.
They would succumb. But there is a high number of those baby turtles that are healthy, but they're incredibly perilous. You know, they may get eaten or whatever. But their goal is to be alive. And that's kind of how I see the embryo thing. Like, I understand some embryos are just not meant to be.
Yeah.
They can't be. They may cause problems in people.
Not viable. Yeah.
They may, and they may cause the death of the mother as well.
Exactly.
I understand all that. But just looking at it just strictly from the perspective of the embryo, I don't think it's controversial to say that it wants to live.
It wants to live. It wants to survive. It wants to grow. It wants to get outside that womb. And that's evident from the technology that we have now, where you can look into the womb and look at that embryo as it's growing and becoming a fetus, becoming a child. And you can say, wow, look at this. This is a person. This is life, you know, and it hiccups and it kicks and it sucks its thumb. You know, it does all these marvelous things. So we have to say, okay, that is evidence of humanity. And, we have to acknowledge that, we have, and this is not getting on any platform other than the bandwagon of, we need to understand and respect and treat all life well as much as we're capable, because we abuse life on this planet. We abuse human life, we abuse plant life, we abuse animal life. And, we have to develop this respect and this understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, it's this buddy of mine that I write about in my second book, who's on the other side now. I was outside one day when I lived with him for a while. I was outside just cursing like hell, cursing these ants. And he said, John, it's their world too. I was like, oh, yeah, well, yeah. It's a big pest to me, but it is their world too. Yeah, so I get it. I understand it. So, but, we have these things that we just have to develop more of a respect and a reverence for life as a whole, life in general.
No, yeah, it's interesting. We're talking about the soul, and we're talking about the stages of the soul. And it's funny how our conversation has, it's come around. We're still on the same topic. We're talking about the soul.
Right.
We talked about death.
Right.
Then we're talking about, okay, the direct trend. We're talking about the beginning of earthly life.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about just the process of the soul when it is fully alive and is living. How do we treat each other? And how do we treat other living souls?
Exactly.
So we're still talking about the same topic, but I think, I agree with you about humans. Not just humans, living things cause great suffering, but let's talk about humans. Humans cause a lot of suffering to other living life.
Yeah.
And the example I like to think about is this happened to me one day. I do study insects, but just one specific day, I was just working outside and some insect came on my finger.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like lighter than a grain of rice. It was just on my tip of my finger. It wasn't particularly ugly or good looking, but it was alive and it was just there. And it was so tiny. And, I thought about it. And luckily I was clear headed. I was like, oh, cool. Let me help this little thing.
Right.
And so what I decided to do was just put it over there.
Right.
But I really think, how you talked about, we need to put ourselves in the same shoes. I really think it's not outlandish to think that to some organisms out there, to some intelligences, we are like that little insect on the finger, and they are like a person. So we are the insect to some other intelligence or life out there. Yeah. And we need to think about how we would want to be treated by that other intelligence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. I think that's a very good analogy. I think there's a lot of truth there. And, obviously we encounter difficulties with that. We don't want a rattlesnake in the house. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there are these boundaries that we have to set up in all this. But I think in the way that we walk through life, we can learn to be so much more respectful and so much more careful. And we have this concept, this erroneous concept, that as a man, we are the penultimate thing on this planet. And we're not. Because if you strip us of all our technology and put us out there in the woods with the bears, guess who's going to win?
Right.
We're at the bottom of the food chain, not the top.
Right.
And we have to look at, going back to what I said before about if you want to survive on this planet, you deal with this planet as it is. It's the reality of it as it is. And I think that as humankind, we have to try and rise above. And I agree with you when you say that we're just more highly advanced animals. And I think that as highly advanced animals, we have to evolve beyond our animal nature, control that, somehow rise above it. Because the animals, I get so tickled at people. I'm an animal lover. I have been my entire life. I've got a little dog now. I'd kill somebody over him, okay? But we make the false assumption that the animal kingdom is sweet, perfect, kind, loving, all this and all that. Let me tell you.
You said that. I've been thinking about this the whole time we've been talking about animals, and you just said the same thing I was thinking. But go on. Let
me tell you a couple of things that I saw. A couple of documentaries on TV I saw. I saw this one documentary, and there's this baby orphaned elephant out in the wild. Mm. And these little bitty teeny tiny thing, and the wildlife photographers, they don't interfere, they just document what's going on. So he's there filming this little bitty baby teeny tiny orphaned elephant in the dark, and in the background you see all these glowing eyes of these jackals that are closing in, fixing to kill and eating this baby elephant.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, poor baby elephant. Well, lo and behold, apparently elephant tribes travel a lot at night, because here in the darkness comes this elephant tribe, dun, 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 coming through the darkness, and you're like, yay, the little baby elephant's going to be saved. So here comes the elephant tribe walking through, and this little baby elephant, in fear and desperation and need, goes running after the elephant tribe and tries to cozy up to them. And 2-1, they shun him, push him away. And one elephant actually turns around, takes his head and his trunk, and knocks the little baby elephant backwards, pushes him clear away. And they all go off into the darkness, leave the little baby elephant all by himself. Here come the jackal eyes. Now, this is reality, Jack. This is nature. This is truth. And then somewhere down the way, some elephant looked at another elephant and said, God damn, motherfucker, we can't do this shit. Come on. And they turned around, they came back, and they got the baby elephant. But beforehand, no, get your ass on out of here. So there's nature. Now, I saw another documentary, and there were these tigresses, female tigers. And all animals are territorial. And this one female tiger accidentally entered the territory of these other 3 female tigresses. And they surrounded her during the night. They could have let her go. They could have whacked the shit out of her and said, get on out of here, get on back to your own territory. But they didn't. They surrounded her. And for the entire rest of the night, over a period of hours, they attacked her repeatedly, bit her, clawed her, tormented her, and finally killed her after they had tortured her for hours on end. That's nature.
Yeah.
Dolphins, flipper, oh, so intelligent, so sweet, so loving. Dolphins have been known to kill in the wild for sport, not for food. Just, oh, look at there. I'm going to kill this some bitch. Boom, you're dead. And not eat, no nothing else. Dolphins rape. Dolphins try and rape people. If you go to a dolphin encounter, they will tell you, don't rub the belly. Because guess what? That dolphin going to come after you, go, hey, Jack, you mine now. We're going to have some nook right here now. So this is nature. This is the reality of nature. It's not this sweet Disney world that we've been taught.
True. It's true.
This is the reality of nature. And that's why, as the animals that we are, we have to rise above this, suppress this, be something better, be something more noble, be something kinder, and, try and rise above that animal nature that we have. We do have an animal nature. Will Smith went up and slapped, what's his name for the joke at the Oscars and all this and that. Yeah. So we do have this animal nature. We have to rise above this thing, and it's very, very hard to do.
It's hard to do, yeah, because we are animals, that's why it's hard. But we have the capability of doing it. It's interesting, because the whole time I was thinking about this concept of natural law, which I'm making this definition up. I didn't read this anywhere. I think natural law is a term that exists already. But in this context, what I mean by natural law is that it's the way that non-humans treat each other. Non-human animals on this planet treat each other. Well, that's natural law. And I'll tell you right now, just like John said, the majority of natural law is not polite. It's horrific.
Exactly.
There's a lot of death. There's a lot of murder. There's a lot of rape. There's a lot of assault.
Yep.
And there is some compassion out there and tenderness, parents and children. And, there's tenderness out there, but that is not the rule. The rule is very rude. It's impolite.
Tooth and claw.
It's tooth and claw. It's really, nothing would surprise me that an animal did to another animal. I mean, I'd be like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, as humans, it's like, we have to. Okay, look, for animals, I give them I kind of understand why they're that way, why they follow natural law. It's because for the majority of animals, they on a daily basis, they have to compete with death.
Yeah.
It's very possible they will die at any day.
Yep.
Most animals, all of them. And so because the stakes are so high for the animals and they could die at any day, then they say, fuck it, let's do natural law. No
Exactly.
holds barred.
Exactly.
We're just gonna go all out for this because we only
Right.
get this. But humans, well, here's the interesting thing about humans, though. Okay, I think it's incorrect to say that humans don't have that problem.
Hmm.
Because I think some humans, like you and I, don't have that problem. I don't have
Hmm.
to worry about death every day.
Right.
Maybe most people watching this, if you're a human, you probably don't have to worry about death every day.
Right.
But it's incorrect to say that most people are like that, because
Yeah.
I think maybe the majority of people are not like that. Majority of people live in a country, let's say a country where, because of violence and crime and corruption, drugs, whatever,
Hmm.
they might die every day. It's a life or death
Exactly.
struggle.
Exactly.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it's like the kid that grows up in a ghetto that's
Right.
filled with drugs, prostitutes, violence.
That's their
That's the
environment.
jungle. And
Yeah.
I got to survive today. I got to figure out how I'm going to live today. You know,
Right.
you look at Mike Tyson, who, in my opinion, is the greatest boxer that ever lived. And
Nice.
he was talking about his childhood and the way he grew up. And he said, who does this to children? He said, I had adults rob me of my lunch money
Mm,
on my way to school. Who does this to children?
right.
And it was basically, you learn to fight, you learn to survive, or you succumbed, you died, you became a slave to the machine or whatever. And it's so we have these environments in place that, those of us who don't live that way, we don't understand that. Well, why did you turn out this way? Why did you have to do this? Why did you have to do that? Well, because I was an animal in the jungle, tooth and claw, and I had to survive. And that's how I figured out how to survive, how to live. And so
Exactly.
we have to understand that that does exist. And we have to try and put some things in place so people don't have to live this way, you
Right.
know?
It's true.
And it does. And it goes back to the thing, well, you can be anything you want to be. No, you can't. You know,
Yeah.
you tell some little black boy in the ghetto, you can grow up to be president. Well, no, he can't, because at some point he's going to piss off some racist white guy that's going to block his climb up the ladder, and boom, there you go. I mean,
Right.
that's just the reality of this world.
It's almost
And
like
so,
I'm trying to think of what would be, because I get the sentiment. I get the idea behind the emotion behind what you tell the child. I
right,
agree that it's not true. It's obviously not true. And I do
right.
believe it does a disservice to tell that to a
It
child.
does, yeah.
But I understand the intent. So I'm trying to think of a replacement
Mhm.
phrase you could tell a child. And I think the replacement phrase could be like something like, hey, you look at this kid from the ghetto, you say, hey, I really think if you work hard and you get lucky,
Mhm.
you could improve your life a
Yeah,
lot.
there you
You can
go.
improve your
There
life
you
a whole
go.
bunch. And that's
And you've
basically
got
what they
oh,
mean.
you like to draw? Let's see if we can get you in art school. Maybe you can be a commercial artist. Maybe you can make a good living that way.
Right.
So it's exactly right. We have to look at what the niche is, what the talent is, what the capabilities are, what the prospects are. And not everybody's, there's not room for everybody at the table. We would like it to be that way, but it's just not,
Let me tell you this, because I want to go back to something. You just hit on something from like
Mhm.
an hour ago, probably, but I'm going to bring it back up because I couldn't get it in earlier. Okay. Uh, so what I want to talk about now is about management, about human management,
Yeah,
because I think a human soul, a big part about being a human, something that separates us from a lot of animals, is that we're managers. We have to
yeah,
manage. The
right,
simplest thing we manage is our own lives.
right,
We
right.
marry. I have to manage how much time I brush my teeth.
Hmm.
I could go on. We get the idea. But
Right.
but as humans, we also might actually physically manage an animal. We might physically
Mhm.
manage a city, or a
Yeah,
country,
yeah,
or a business, or a family. So I'm just saying, there's all these levels of management that
yep,
a human soul has to participate in. And so then my question was about what I've learned, the skills that I've learned through management. So I'll just tell you what I've learned,
hmm,
and then I'll give you examples why I came to that conclusion. And it has to do with COVID, actually.
hmm,
Um, so what I've come to understand about managing a project is that you have to get hands-on with it. You have
yeah,
to hold on to it all the way through its development, whatever project you're trying to do. It's
absolutely.
it always plan for, I don't know, 50% more effort in
Yes.
managing than you thought. So but I understand, like, let's say you're managing people, I don't want to be, I never want to be a dick to them. I don't
Mhm.
want to give them too much pressure, but I could spend more time with them. There's things I could do non-aggressively. So when I say we need to when we're managing a project, whether it's our life or family or business or
Right.
government, I think whenever you start that idea, you need to give it more effort and more time. See the idea through the very end.
Exactly.
And here's how I came to that as far as COVID. Okay, going back to the way COVID was managed.
Mhm.
I'm just going to talk about the United States because I don't have all the facts for the other countries, but for sure the United States they handled the pandemic horribly. They did
Yeah.
a terrible job all around. Okay,
Exactly.
they were unprepared, and one thing I would have done, it's something they do in Mexico that I like. What I would have done, so this idea is from Mexico. They do this something similar,
Mhm.
but I would have run some government ads, just government paid for ads on all the major YouTube channels and whatever and they would be just fun videos, but they would just basically be information about what is a virus.
Yeah.
Very basic information.
Right.
What the hell is a virus?
Yeah,
What do they
exactly.
do? What do they look like?
Yep.
Most people they still don't know what the fuck a virus is in the
Exactly.
world. What is
Exactly.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So I think that could have been just communication. I'm saying communication could have been clearer and stronger
And truthful. And like you say,
truthful.
the basic thing, get the basic concept out there and admit, look, we don't know everything we're going to do about this thing. We don't have all the answers,
That's the truth.
but we're going to make a vaccine that we hope will help prevent you getting this. And if you do get it, it'll be less severe. And that's our best shot at this thing.
Yeah.
And be honest about it.
It's true. And then, I think it could have been also a great time to educate about science because I'll just give you a mini example of some project. I'll do a new project, but I'm going to take examples from when I've done previous projects. Right. But let's say I start a new science project, like making a vaccine is a project. I'm not going to do that because I don't work with vaccines. But let's say I plan a new experiment where I go into the rainforest and I look for new species. Okay, that's a project. I know that when I start that project, I'm going to have a plan and an intention and a goal. I want to have one goal that I want. But I also know from experience that probably everything's going to change at the end. Everything's going to change. I am still going to finish my project. I am going to have something to present, and it is going to be good. But it's probably not going to represent or look a lot like what I started with. That's just the way projects are. That's how science works. And I'll probably hit a lot of dead ends, and I'll make mistakes, and I'll say things that are wrong, and I'll act with wrong information. But that is just how messy science is. And
you'll have to learn and adapt as you go along. You have to be willing to change to the facts that you're presented with that you discover and say, okay, I thought it was going to be this way, but it's not. It's this way. And then you have to be willing to acknowledge that and say, okay, now where does this send me? Where does this take me?
And one of the most difficult things that has to do with that stops us from thinking that way is that it's an emotional process.
Yeah.
We have to, but I mean, it is an emotional project, but it shouldn't be. Science should be totally emotionless. If you want to get the best science, you get rid of your emotions. What I mean by that is
your preconceived notions, your hidebound ideologies, your preferences, your biases. You have to go back to the old quote of, we're going to follow the truth wherever it leads us.
Right.
And if it leads me someplace that I don't like, but it's the truth, I got to go there. I got to deal with that.
No, it's true. Now I'm still working toward my point. But so let me elaborate some more. So with COVID, one other little thing, I've started teaching a class. I've only done one class so far. I need to catch up, but I've started teaching an entomology class on my channel. So I have one class and I have a presentation because I used to teach in college, and I plan on going through an entire course of entomology, insects.
Right.
And it's free. Anybody can watch it. I try to make it fun and whatever. So I've downloaded some textbooks on viruses. So I'm thinking about teaching a class on virology because I think that's a little thing I could do to help at least one human out there. They could learn what a virus is.
I think so, because so many people are so confused by what's been presented. They don't have a clear understanding, and they need that clear understanding so they can say, okay, now I get it. I can make some kind of an informed choice and have some clear idea of what's going on that I didn't have before.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I agree. That's the intention for sure. Now,
Yeah.
the thing about managing projects, what I've learned about life and souls is that a lot of life is managing different projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also learned that when you're successfully managing a project, you have to give it a lot more energy than you normally think you would.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to follow that managed project way toward the end. So now here's another example that has to do with COVID. So from my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that there was a president before Trump. I don't remember which one it was. Could have been Bush, maybe Clinton, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Some United States presidents set up a program to be prepared for a pandemic. Okay.
Right.
Now that's good. That president, whoever it was, I don't know who it was,
Mm-hmm.
they were managing that project, and it was good
Yeah.
that they thought about that because they were right. That would have been useful, but I think that project was not managed enough.
Exactly.
At some point, the people hands off, and it was disassembled,
Yeah.
and it did not do its job.
Yeah. It didn't function. Yeah.
It didn't function.
It fell by the wayside. And
yeah, that project, it could have used more hands-on approach longer.
yeah.
Maybe that's not feasible, but that's just one example.
Yeah.
If the people could have just kept that program, fought harder for it,
Yep.
it could have been in place.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, now let's go on to animals.
Yeah.
That was the other one. Okay, so two questions now, and both of them will take us in different paths. So one of them is okay. It's very simple, I guess. The question is, everything you've explained about a human soul, what happens after death, does that basically apply to animals that we know of, like mice and termites? That's one question.
I believe that it does, and I have experiential evidence for myself to state that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a cat that I absolutely was just dearly in love with. Loved this little critter more than anything on the planet, and I write about this in my books.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there. It was Thanksgiving Eve, and back in West Texas, so it was warm, and I had the front door open. It was a glass door that also had a screen in it, and the wooden door was open, so just the screen door was open. And it was in the evening. It was getting dark. And this little cat that, I mean, I would hold him and hold his little paw and hug him. We would dance, and I would sing to him. He would purr. He loved me. He kissed me. He rubbed on me. He laid with me. I just adored this little
Sounds
animal.
wonderful. Sounds beautiful.
And we had the best communication and the best relationship. And so I'm sitting watching TV with my wife and my kid. And it's Thanksgiving Eve. It's starting to get dark outside. And all of a sudden, he runs to the front door and starts banging on it and clawing at it and meowing just frantically to get outside. And he has never, ever done that before. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? I'm like, chill out. I'll get up in a minute. I'll let you out. I've got to watch this show. And I'm sitting there, and he's just like going crazier and crazier. And I'm like, okay. So I got up. I let him outside. He runs out. So okay, he'll come back. And when he's done, I closed the door and went back, sit down, finished watching my TV show. And the neighbors came over, knocked on the door, and said, the cat's out here in the street. He's been hit by a car and he's dead.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, why did this little critter have this urgency, this manic urgency to get outside? Did he know this was going to happen? Was this foreordained, or was this an accident? Why was this urgency to get out that he had never exhibited before? So I was crushed. I was heartbroken. And I had this big Doberman named Elsa, big red female Doberman. And she loved the little cat, and the little cat loved her. And so after he died, my wife and I divorced, and I took Elsa and I moved back to my family home and had Elsa there in a pen outside. So years went by, and I was there by myself, and I was out on my front porch changing a light bulb one morning. And from around the corner of the house, this cat comes pell-mell crazy running onto the porch, meowing and all happy and everything. And this cat is the exact spitting image replica of the other cat grown up.
Wow.
And I was I looked at him and I was like, And I called his name. I said, "Are you, my God?" And he was just loving me and just rubbing up. Now, we didn't have a lot of cats in the neighborhood. We had like maybe one cat in the neighborhood. And no other cats. I'd never seen this cat before. And he's like clawing at the screen to get in the house. So I open up the door. He runs in the house and he's just all happy and he's all excited. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? And I was washing clothes and I didn't have a dryer, hung the clothes outside on the clothesline. And so the dryer quit and went through the house and he's just rubbing on me and loving on me and just carrying on. So I'm loading up the clothes in the clothes basket from the washer, fixing to carry him outside to the clothesline. And we go out in the backyard and he's jumping up in the air and rubbing on the clothes basket and jumping back down, rubbing on me. And Elsa's over there in her pen, the big Doberman. And she sees him, he sees her, and he runs over there to her, gets right on the sidewalk right by the gate, gets upside down, starts rolling on his back and pawing at her. And she lets out this yelp that's almost a cry, like this recognition, like she knows this guy, like, oh, Gizmo, there he is. Oh my God, where you been? And I'm like, man, I'm freaking out. And so I hang the clothes out and I'm like, okay, well, stereotypical of the time, I'll go get the cat a bowl of milk and sit it out. So I go in, pour the bowl of milk, come out, call kitty, 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 look around the side, disappeared, gone, never saw him again, never came back.
Wow.
But I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was Gizmo, that it was that little cat that came back in the flesh to visit. And then I had another cat that I dearly, dearly loved named Poe after Edgar Allan. And this cat, he was something else. He would come like a dog when I called him. If we were out and we came in, he'd come running, come for me to love on him and stuff. And we had this really, really great loving relationship. And he died, we had him a number of years, and he died on Halloween night, appropriately enough, named Poe, right?
Yeah.
So a year or two had gone by. It's in the book, and I forget now, but a year or two had gone by. And on Halloween, later, we're sitting there. We'd had a hurricane come through, and it had knocked a portion of our fence down.
Oh.
And behind our property was heavily thicketed woods. And I have to mention that Poe, when he was alive, this was a cat that when he walked through the room, no matter how much you brushed him, no matter how much you groomed him, when he walked through the room, hair floated off of him in clouds.
Yeah.
We destroyed 3 vacuum cleaners with that cat. I'm not exaggerating. So keeping that in mind, we have this thick woods, this thicket in the back of the house. The fence is blown down. So my wife's talking on the phone. We're sitting there watching TV, and we have these big glass doors that look into the backyard. And we're waiting on the insurance company to fix the fence from the hurricane. And so the fence is still blown down. And I look out in the backyard, something catches my eye, and there's this white cat, just like my Poe, sitting on that fence, staring into the house. And I whack my wife and I go, my God, look at that white cat. Look at that white cat. And she looks and he's staring at us just so intently. I said, my God, it's Poe. She said, oh my God, I think it is. I think it is Poe. So I get up and I open the door to go outside, and he walks back through into the brush and disappears. And I'm like, oh man, no, come back. And so I said, okay. So I go back inside, I sit back down. And when I sit down, he comes out of the brush again, comes and sits on the fence, the fallen fence, and stares in again. And I get the idea, like, I'm not supposed to go and try and touch him. Now, the other cat, I actually got to touch and pet and everything else.
Right.
But for some reason, I get the impression I'm not supposed to go and try and touch Poe. So I'm like, okay. So I get my phone and I take a picture of him through the window. And he sits there for a long while, and I'm sending him good thoughts and love and all this, and he eventually wanders off. Well, 2 very interesting things. The picture, and I've got it, and I've shown it to several people. The photograph, you can see just a white outline that kind of glows, and there's no detail in it. There's details all around the cat, but there's just this white outline. You can't see any detail in the ears. You can't see the eyes. You can't see anything else. It's just this glowing white outline, the silhouette of this cat, which is bizarre. The second thing is, when I went out there after he wandered off and I looked, a cat like that should leave a trail of white hair all in the brush out there. There was no hair anywhere to be found, no hair anywhere to be seen.
Wow.
So Poe came back to visit us after his death and let us know that he was okay and that he was still there. So I firmly believe that animals have that capability to come back. And one other story I write about in my first book concerning an animal, my sister had these. I had moved back home after my divorce. My sister moved back home. My mother was ill and we were taking care of her. She was becoming bedfast. And my sister had these two little dogs, and one of the little dogs was chronically ill. He was sick all the time. And she would go to work, and I was in school at the time. And she would bring the dogs in, put them on the bed with my mother. And occasionally they'd jump down, go in the kitchen, get something to eat or drink, come back and jump back in bed with my mother. And so one day I had come in, and it was a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and I was in a good mood. And I'd made myself a sandwich, went and sat at the kitchen table, and I was just daydreaming and enjoying my sandwich. And I heard the little dog jump down off the bed and come down the hallway and turn around and look, and it was a little sickly dog. And I looked over my right shoulder at him, and he walked behind me. And I looked over my left shoulder to watch him go into the kitchen. As I looked over my left shoulder, this woman bent down and was about a foot or two from my face, smiling at me. And I can tell you what she looked like and how she was dressed. She was completely solid physically. And it didn't scare me, but it startled me so much that I jumped up, turned my chair over, and threw my sandwich, which fortunately landed on the table. So I got to eat my sandwich. Scared the little dog to death. He skittered into the kitchen, and she vanished.
Right.
And my mother said, "What happened? What happened?" I said, "Oh, just saw a ghost." And that was de rigueur in my house. So nothing unusual. And she goes, "Well, was there a message?" And there was, and I couldn't tell anybody because I knew it'd break their heart. In that split second, the woman had communicated to me that she was following after the little dog to watch after him, that he was going to die within a week or two. And she was there to cross him over and make sure he was going to be okay.
Wow.
And sure enough, a week or two later, he died. So he had this this large green squeaky frog toy that he loved. It was so messed up and dirty and gommed up. And my sister had one of her bathrobes, house robes, that he would take and roll up his toys in and then unroll them and play in it and lay in it and all this stuff. So we, like a lot of people, we buried our animals in the backyard when they died. And so we dug him a hole out in the backyard. And he's a little small dog. And my sister wrapped him up in this robe, several turns of this robe, put the frog toy in there with him, wrapped all that up, made a little bundle. We buried all that in the backyard. And then I put a big heavy rock over it so no animals could dig him up or come get him, whatever. So much time had gone by that I'd moved the rock, the grass had grown back, the ground was perfectly, excuse me, solid and firm. And unless you knew exactly where the little dog's grave was, you wouldn't know because the grass had grown completely back in place. Everything was smoothed over. Everything was just a normal yard. No indication of where the dog was. So my sister was at work. I had been out doing something. I can't remember what. And I wasn't driving. I was walking because I came back in. And it was another bright, pretty sunny day. And I walked by the pen where Elsa was, my Doberman. I said hi to her and loved on her a little bit. Started walking up the driveway. And over in the yard, something caught my eye. And I looked over there and I was like, what in the world is that? So I walked over to see what it was. And on the little dog's grave was that green squeaky frog toy.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, my sister is being a total complete asshole and has played the most horrible joke on the planet, dug the dog up, got the frog out, reburied everything, and put the frog there to freak me out. So I get down on my hands and knees and I check all the dirt, all the grass, everything's as solid as concrete. Nothing's been disturbed. I'm like, holy cow. So either the little dog or someone watching over the little dog has teleported this frog through that cloth, through the dirt, up through the grass, up to the top to let us know, hey, I'm still here. I'm around. I made it. I'm okay.
Right.
And that was another one of the most amazing things I had with animal experiences. So
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, I definitely relate to your experiences with animals. You have a really good relationships with your dogs and cats in the past. But that's great. All right, yeah. So that's reassuring. Yeah, I've heard similar things about animals and pets
Mhm.
coming back to life.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. So the next part of the animal question, and thank you for answering that aspect. I thought we were going to go in that direction. I was pretty sure
Yeah.
that's what happened. Something similar to humans. Uh, but the next question is this: as far as animals in the
Mhm.
spiritual ecosystem, is the question is, um, are there animals that only live in the spiritual realm? I mean, that's a broad term. I don't know what to. The same world that these spirits play in, these ghosts.
Yeah.
Are there animals that's just their home? That's their ecosystem. They're
Yeah.
not dead animals. They're not
Right.
any animal that we have on our planet. They're not a
Right.
rhinoceros or a monkey. These are just living things, just like we have birds and we have insects. Are there just living things that inhabit this area?
I believe that there are, and I believe that periodically they may somehow vibrate into our dimension. We may see them, interact with them. So you may have dog man, wolf man, whatever,
Yeah.
Sasquatch, whatever. Just like I believe that there are intelligent beings, entities that are on the other side in this invisible realm that we don't know what the heck they are, who the heck they are. We don't have any accurate way to describe them,
Right.
to say who or what they are, but they're there. They're intelligent. They possess will, volition, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But they're not human.
Mm.
They're not this. They're not that. They're not the other. They just are what they are, and we're not real sure what that is. I'll give you an example. I had one motorcycle ride that I love to take repeatedly out in the country. Um, I made this turn off one day, and it's out in the country. There's nothing around, and I made my turn, looked back in my rearview mirror as I habitually do, and there was this, for lack of a better term, this monolith type creature that
Mm.
was solid black and maybe 14, 16 feet tall,
Mm.
standing there in the roadway where I had turned, where there was nothing before. I knew there was nothing because I looked. And then I'm seeing it in my rearview mirror, and immediately I get the knowledge that this is some type of sentient being, and it's appearing just to say, hey, we're watching you. We know you're there. We're kind of keeping watch over you. And I was so gobsmacked by this thing. I started to stop and turn around and go back, and a car came the other way, and I had to wait. And by the time I got to where I could go back, it had vanished.
Wow.
And so there are, and what is that? It looked like basically a human monolith.
Yeah, can you? I always do this. I realize Bobby pointed out every time someone gives an encounter, I always have the same line of questioning. I always I want to go back to it and I ask like, yeah, can you describe it again in detail? Because
Yeah, yeah,
let me just tell you what I understood, and then we could expand on it. So you were driving your motorcycle,
right.
and then you came across in the street
Yeah,
uh, a human shape, but it was immense, like really big. Like was it
wasn't
as
really a human shape. It
There
was more
wasn't a
like,
human shape. Okay.
think of a skinny the monolith in 2001. Think of
Okay, like
that,
a
but
black
skinny. Yeah,
okay, like a
just a
thin black
black. Yeah,
bar.
yeah, and
Okay.
very very tall, but with the absolute conveyance of I am an intelligent entity, and
Mhm.
I know that you see me, and I've
Mhm.
appeared so that you will see me,
Mhm.
and that you know that there is this category of whatever
Right.
these intelligences are that watch over me, look after me, and interact. So
Do you think the monolith? First of all, how wide would you say the monolith
maybe a couple of
monolith?
feet, maybe a couple of
Okay.
feet was all. So
Okay.
think about a profile basically of kind of a human, but maybe 12, 14 feet tall or so.
Okay.
And no features of a human, but you got the impression that it was humanoid, even though it was just this monolithic shape.
Okay. I think I see where I got confused because I was confusing monolith with gargantuan in my head. So
Yeah,
I was thinking that it was very large, but it's actually monolithic, which you're correct in your usage. Is that
yeah,
it's a structure that's like the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
right.
And
But
you're
very,
saying
very thin. Yeah, only about a couple of feet wide.
a couple of
But
feet wide, about 12 feet tall.
About 12, 14 feet tall, just
Yeah.
amazingly tall and very shocking to see. And I was like, what in the
Yeah.
world is this? And then
That-
I get the communication, the
Right.
mental communication, psychic communication that, this is an intelligent entity, being, whatever it is. And, hey, want you to see me, want you to know we're here, we're watching after you, just want you to be aware of this other aspect of things,
Right.
this added aspect of things. Yeah.
Just making itself known. Yeah.
Yeah.
Communicating, giving you a message. Okay.
Right.
Now, just a tiny question. I know it's not important, but when you saw the monolith, did you think of the monolith itself as a symbol of an intelligence, or was it the intelligence itself?
It was the intelligence
It was. That's
itself.
what I thought. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
you saw it as the
Yeah.
intelligence. That's what it looked like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, very cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That could see. Okay. So yeah. So this idea is basically, yes, there are certain things that live in this plane, and they could pop into our
Reality.
reality.
Dimension. Yeah.
And that makes sense. And now, do you think you mentioned some things that could potentially be them, like Sasquatch could be some of these creatures, and dogmen.
Right.
What about like black-eyed children and shadow people?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about those things, those stories?
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to sneeze.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. I apologize. It's allergy season.
Oh no. I understand. Before you start, if you want, I'll read these quotes real fast just before you get started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some comments. Okay, so yeah, Io Walks, our resident musician, he says, I always read these. I read these raw. Okay, I don't pre-read them. I just put them
love
up.
this. This is great.
I just go with it. He says, I plan to get a PS5 and Ark Survival. Those are fun survival games. With the idea to start a tribal clan that is Amish-like and refuses to upgrade.
I think it's been done.
Nice. Well,
that's great.
You could start your own franchise of these.
Really.
Amish-like people that refuse to.
Amish-like people. Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, I have that game Ark Survival for the Xbox Series X. Maybe I'll start playing it, and I could start doing that too. Okay, he continues. He says every server of the video game he's talking about will have indigenous, and he will have a Discord, which is like a way to communicate offline. I'm not actually sure what a Discord is. So they will have a Discord where they can trade, making them a power. Oh, damn! You have trading set up, private trading, an economy to give them power. That sounds awesome, dude. And that game, just a little more detail about that game. There's like dinosaurs in it, like any kind of dinosaur you could think of, like the woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed tiger, velociraptor. It's full of all these animals, so you could have your own forest kingdom.
Oh God, I love it. That's great.
But yeah, thank you, Iowax. That's a great idea. Thank you for your contribution. Now, so yeah, you were going to tell us. You were about to tell us you're going to answer a question or tell us a point. Do you remember what that was?
No.
No, me neither. Let me try to backtrack a little bit.
You can backtrack a little bit here.
I'll backtrack. Okay, erase my memory. So you had a sneeze. You're like, okay, right. And then so right directly before you sneezed, we talked about this topic, and we were talking about the earliest thing.
Does any of our listeners remember the topic?
Yeah. Does anybody remember what we were saying? That would be very helpful. Type it in the comments. We were for sure talking about animals and their afterlives.
Oh, the monolith.
I remember.
About the monolith.
I remember. Yeah, we talked about the monolith. It came to me. It popped right in. What is your opinion on dogmen and shadow people?
Yeah, and black-eyed children, all that stuff.
Black-eyed children. Yeah, black-eyed children.
We have all of these manifestations that there is ample anecdotal evidence for from credible people in credible circumstances. And for all of these things, I think it just falls into that uncharted territory of there are things out there that we don't know what they are. We don't know how to identify them. their interaction with us is either so sporadic or unconventional, or difficult to interpret that we don't know what to make of it. If you're out in the woods and you see the dog man, okay, there's a reality. Where do I go with that? What do I do with that? Well, like the spirits that communicate with me and guide people will come on a frequent and a continual basis, but the dog man doesn't. Sasquatch doesn't. Black-eyed children don't. So we're looking at phenomena that occur sporadically, that may be very disconcerting in their appearance. And we don't know how to make contact with that. We don't know what to make of that contact. We don't know how to make that recur in a manner that we can establish some type of communication or some type of, okay, this is what engendered that. This is what brought this about. Let's see if we can do that again. And then, you know, who is it? What is it? What does it want? What's its purpose? What's its motivation? So there are a lot of anomalies out there like that. That again, all you got to do is read the anecdotal evidence, and it goes back hundreds of years, and it's over and over and over and over again. So and there's enough credible people and credible circumstances that you have to say, yes, okay, these things exist. What are they? Why are they here? What part of reality are they? Why do they manifest? What's going on? So there's a plethora of things out there, manifestations, entities, manifestations that we have to try and understand, try and make sense out of. And of course, the first thing we want to do is capture it, shoot it, put it on public display, whatever. So, you know, we have to be more respectful, I think, going into the research of these things. And say, okay, you know, I'm not here. There are things I've experienced that people have asked me, why have you taken pictures? Have you got something you can show me, this, that, and the other? It's like, no, I don't, because the manifestation itself, the intelligence itself, said, this is between me and you. This is for me and you. This is not for public consumption. This is not a sex tape. You know, we're not going to put something out there for everybody to Google and go, blah, blah, blah. This is for me and you to understand and you to learn something from, but it's not for public consumption in a photograph or a video or whatever. Maybe down the road, you know, but not now.
It's basically showing respect. You're being told, you're being told some facts, like this is how I feel about something. And then you could be responsible with that information and not be impolite.
And the more that you are responsible with that information, and the more honest and caring you are with it, the more you're given, the more you're shown.
Well, that makes sense. That just makes sense, right? Logically, point A to point B. If you treat someone with respect, they will give you more respect, and they will give you, they will help you. They will be friendly with you. So yeah, I don't want to get too off track. I like everything you're saying, but then like I don't want to forget what I wanted to say about what you said earlier. So there's two things I remember right at this point that I wanted to say. One is, oh damn, of course I'm blanking out right when I'm about to say it. Let me backtrack it. Let me just get to it. Let's see. Okay, so one of the things I was going to ask you about, we're talking about souls, animals, respect. Okay, I got one of the ideas back. So I believe you're right about respect when you're doing research. I mean, honestly, you should always do respect when you do research with living animals. But that's a whole other topic. But let's just talk about paranormal research. So I will tell you, I've developed some plans. I've developed I've outlined two potential experiments. One of the experiments has the goal of proving Bigfoot is real, and the other experiment has the goal of proving that some poltergeists are animals and some of them are real. Okay. But here's the thing. When I designed those methods, I learned something very quickly that you said. I purposefully chose, in both cases, the poltergeist case and the Bigfoot case, I purposely chose to always treat the animals with respect. All my directions, all my procedures, the future of my project, the implications, I designed it to always help that animal. Like you're actually going to get something out of this. Like in my mind, I'm like, Bigfoot, if you if you go along with me with this little experiment, you'll get something out of it that I think you'll like. And then the same thing with the poltergeist. I'm going to give you what you want. I respect you. I'm not using you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very true. And once again, that should be applied to living animals when you do research, not just paranormal things.
Right.
And then the other point I wanted to make, because this is just basically backing up everything you said. It's really just building on what you said, which is good. We agree on a lot of things. So you were talking about how these animals like Bigfoot and dogmen, shadow people, black-eyed children, this idea that the reports are out there. There's so many reports, the close-up of reports, there's something happening there.
Exactly.
Well, let's just go with the idea because it seems likely that these things are there.
Yeah.
Well, then the really interesting thing is that if I look at it, and I'm not the first one to say this, but there are definitely, if I'm looking at it as an environmental biology, there's definitely a zone that's kind of like intertidal zone or an estuary where two ecosystems meet together.
Exactly.
An estuary, you have your salt water and your fresh water. And the thing is that fresh water exists in the world and salt water exists in the world. So at some point, they have to intersect with each other.
They commingle,
They have to commingle, and we know that it happens only in certain places and at certain times, but we have a name for it. It's called an estuary. So the water is mixed between fresh and salt. There are animals that only live in the estuary. They don't live in the salt water or the fresh water. They live in this new mixture.
So there's that zone.
There's a zone. And so in paranormal people talk about a liminal zone, which is basically a mixture of two worlds.
Yeah.
Liminal zones are really fun because I actually studied them in college before I even studied the paranormal. This other liminal zone that's really big, it's basically the environment between water and land. So if you have a little creek, there's like a little zone where the water is transitioning to land.
Yeah.
There's insects that only live there, and it's got a higher diversity.
Exactly.
So knowing that there are things out there that we could somewhat interact with, like we see Bigfoot, we see dogmen, then it's like these two zones. There has to be an area. There has to be a zone out there.
Exactly.
Now the zone could be physical, it could be temporal, it could be a certain time or a place, but there is something. There's got to be a zone where
there's an estuary there where these things occur. Yeah.
Right. Oh,
exactly.
My penny just
holy cow.
It's been a while since it fell on me. It's a reoccurring joke now with this.
It's falling on the truth.
Yeah. But yeah, so what I was thinking about was that the estuary zone. Yeah. I feel like I've heard of some places like paranormal hotspots. Perhaps that could be kind of a big estuary zone.
Exactly. And we have to realize that just like, in various zones, we're always finding new forms of life that we didn't discover before, we didn't know before.
Right.
And I think that in the paranormal realm, we have to acknowledge that just like in the estuary here, where there's certain forms of life that only exist there, and then they ebb and flow, they live and die, whatever, and they may evolve, may disappear completely. Another species may come in to take over that estuary, whatever. Likewise, in the paranormal realm, we have to understand that, like I tell people, when you go on a paranormal investigation and you go to a place that has activity, how many of those spirits choose to hang around there long term? How many of those are non-human entities that are kind of planted to that space, that region, for whatever reason? How many entities do you encounter that are passing through? You have all of these possibilities, and you can't go in hidebound and You have to go in and say, okay, who's here? Why are you here? What's your duration here? What do you want to communicate? What's your purpose? Is there something I can help you with? Is there something you can help me with? And so on and so forth. So paranormal investigations are very, very complex, very involved. And you don't go in, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, it's done. They can take weeks. They can take months. And, there are places that you've investigated you could go back to in 6 months and a year and get completely different results, some other manifestation, some other thing, or maybe a continuation, a deepening of the understanding of what you got before. And it's like, it's like with human communication, we know each other superficially from right here. And the longer we hang out with each other, the more we learn about each other's backgrounds, likes, dislikes, education, aims, goals, so on and so forth. And likewise in the paranormal realm. So if you encounter a spirit and an entity there, the estuary, the atmosphere, whatever, the environment is such that it can only communicate for a very short amount of time, you're getting just a glimpse of what that entity is and what that intelligence is. You don't know everything about that. You can go back again and again and revisit that and learn more and more and learn more and more. And that's where a lot of the so-called paranormal investigators fall short, is they go and they think that, okay, I got my REM pod activated. I got some EVP. I got the name George, and George lived here, so-and-so. We're success, next building, next investigation. And, there's a rich story there, a complexity of depth to unfold and to understand when you're interacting with the paranormal realm. And it's not just a quick bam, you're done thing. It's like it can unfold over years.
That's crazy. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, the other interesting thing about the living interacting with these weird entities is that there's usually a lot of fear associated with it, and that's almost inevitable because it's rare that it happens.
It's the
unknown.
And when we interact with the unknown, we don't know what its reason is, what its purpose is, what its intent, what it's going to do to us, what it may do to us. And so the normal reaction is fear. And that's one of the things that we have to overcome when we're doing.
You have to overcome it. That's how I see it. I see it as something that. Whoa! My page is about to fall again. I see it as it was wobbling. Hold on a second.
I love it.
Scotty's here
communicating with us.
I know, right? I think it's some Bigfoot I communicated a few weeks ago with.
There you go.
There was a guest on the show, and I asked them to communicate with his Bigfoot on property, and I said, "You guys can." I told the Bigfoot, "You guys can mess with me if you want." I wasn't specific.
Yeah.
And so me and Bobby are like, they keep knocking over your painting.
There you go. That's communication.
I hear it loud and clear. My head hears it loud and clear.
Yeah.
It used to never happen. I've been using that painting for my show for like a year, 2 years, and it just started after this Bigfoot thing.
Yeah.
So Scotty from Wisconsin says, being late, don't know if John covered orbs. Okay, in the last 45 years, I have seen
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Okay, 4 times. Oh, okay. In the last 45 years, you've seen Bigfoot 4 times. That sounds like a lot.
That's
once every decade. That's more than I have 0 encounters, and I'm in my decades. Okay. 2 times I have seen orbs after seeing Bigfoot. I have seen orbs other times without Bigfoot.
Right.
What's John's take on orbs? Well, that's the question. What do you think?
That's a good question. I think that again, going back to when we talked about the UFO and the paranormal occurrences that meshed with that, a lot of people report other paranormal manifestations occurring after Bigfoot encounters or during Bigfoot encounters. So that's something that actually is pretty usual in the genre. And as far as orbs, you have to be really, really careful with orbs, because there are orbs that are entities, beings, spirits, manifestations, whatever. And being a professional photographer, it's super easy to mistake a speck of dust or an insect or this, that, and the other for a paranormal manifestation when it's not. And there's ways to really delve into the photograph and determine what you've got. But yeah, orbs do exist. There are circles of light that are intelligent beings that act intelligently or manifest intelligently and do intelligent things. And you can capture them not just with a still camera, but you can capture them on video as well. And you will see through like on Secret of Skinwalker Ranch on History Channel, they got an orb there that clearly was not an insect, was not a bird, was not dust, was not whatever. This was a glowing orb that moved, stopped, hovered, moved, stopped, hovered, reversed, went in all kinds of different flight patterns.
What season was that?
Dust, things don't do.
What season was that? Just to interview.
This past season.
The last one. Okay.
Yeah, the last one. Yeah. So yeah, there are orbs. I have seen orbs. I saw a really crazy manifestation of some very small orbs in bright daylight one time. I was sitting outside. This is when I was staying with my friend Bill, and I was sitting out in the backyard, and down the alley over the fence comes this cluster of these 3 orbs that were different sizes. It was like, if you will, think Papa, Mama, Baby. And they were all clustered together, and they had intelligence. They stopped. They started. It's like they were looking around for something, and then they went up over the fence down into this yard. And I was like, hey, come back, guys, come back. And they didn't, but it was obvious that it was some type of intelligence that was manifesting. And those were orbs, but yeah, it definitely occurs.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about orbs too. I guess I saw my own orb. But like you mentioned, you said it perfectly. There's a really, when we throw in the year 2022, when we throw out the term orbs in this kind of community, there's a big spectrum of what that means.
Exactly.
The smallest thing is it's misidentified dust in an infrared filter camera or just in a camera.
Right.
That's the smallest thing. And then the largest thing could be like, these are glowing balls physically in front of you, no camera needed.
Right.
Yeah. So I saw one of those for like a brief second. I was outside. Well, at the time I was with a research assistant friend, and we were in the middle of a big project, and we were at my friend's apartment really late at night. We had just made dinner for each other, I guess.
Right.
And we were walking outside of the apartment, and in the parking lot, we saw there were 3 trees, and right above the trees, so about 50, 60 feet in the air, we just saw a ball of light.
Wow.
Now, I saw it at the corner of my eye. So my friend saw it more directly. So our sizes are different. I think it was softball size, but my friend, I think she said it was beach ball size.
Yeah.
She's probably right, because I saw it off the corner of my eye, but it just appeared out of nowhere above the trees. It was the brightest, not even white. It seemed like a hole was punched in the sky. It was just pure light.
Right.
No real color to it. I guess white is the closest color. And it had a tail. So as it moved, it was moving away from us toward the university. And as it moved, it had a tail. Left a little trailing tail of light.
Right.
And it didn't make any noise. There wasn't any smell. I went to that area afterwards. There was a field. I didn't find anything that it could have been. I don't think it was a firework. There was no smoke.
Right.
I still don't know what that is, but it was broadly an orb shape. So I guess you could consider that an orb as well.
Yeah.
But it's funny, because I think, there's this idea people say that some of the extraterrestrial ships are modular, or like a Russian nesting doll. And you have a really big one that's up high, a mothership.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Breaks down into smaller ones. And then one of the smallest configurations is thought to be like a sphere drone.
Right.
That goes really close to the ground.
Yeah.
That could be it. I think some of it could be ball lightning.
But we don't know. That goes back to, we just don't know. And that's what we have to try and interact more intimately with this and get the knowledge that we can. And one of the things that's come to me lately is that some of these realms and the intelligences in those realms are not necessarily at enmity with other realms, but think of it, the interaction, in the same way that science has proven that trees of different species will send out chemicals through their roots in the soil to other trees. Hey, this is my turf, stay away.
Okay, yeah. And
I think that some of the entities in some of these realms may be kind of like the same way, not hostile, but just kind of like, hey, watch where you're encroaching here, that type of thing. So, just like, I won't say tribal necessarily, but I think there are boundaries there sometimes. And I've had the distinct feeling lately that some of the, let's call them nature spirits and other various entities in nature, are not real pleased with the UFO activity. It seems to give them a little bit of pause, a little bit of upset, like, hey, you're getting a little too close on the turf here, and taking liberties that you shouldn't.
That's kind of new. That's a new take. I had not heard that before. That's very compelling.
that was something that I had never thought of, and it came to me recently because I've been trying to get more and more close to nature spirits and to other entities and get their take on things and their intelligence and what they can show me and guide me toward. And that was one of the things that came to me, was like, hey, we're not always real pleased with this activity. So it's like, okay, there's something different. Yeah.
That's so funny. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That makes that, well, I mean, that's compelling. That's interesting. So basically, the thought is that through your channels, or you've heard, or you've felt,
Mhm.
or you believe that these nature spirits, some of them, are acting like animals in the wild would when another animal encroaches too closely.
Yeah.
Kind of like this is my territorial, basically, behavior.
Right.
And
Right.
you're saying the nature spirits seem to be acting this way toward the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah. And not in a really hostile way, but just in kind of a perturbed way, you
Yeah.
know, where it's kind of like, hey, what are you doing here? You know?
It's funny. Well, yeah, I wonder if every planet on, and every planet in the cosmos that's got life, I wonder if all of them have their equivalent of a UFO problem, where it's just like some hyper intelligence. It's just can't
That's
get a monkey on your back.
That's interesting. It could be that. It could be.
I mean, we are that to, like, chickens. We do.
Exactly.
If you think of, if just imagine imagine a chicken was an alien.
Yeah.
It's not an alien species from Earth, but imagine it was. Look at how we treat chickens. Like
Exactly.
that would be one species dominating another species.
Yep. And it's like, well, what's his name? Oh, geez, it's getting late now. The physicist Hawking. It's just like Hawking said.
Oh, yeah.
Look what happened from when every superior race, technologically superior race on Earth meets another one, they're either subjugated or wiped out or enslaved or whatever. And he said, we can extrapolate that to a highly advanced civilization from out there. And he said, the results are not usually good. That's what Hawking said.
Exactly.
And Hawking was against trying to contact extraterrestrial races for that very reason.
Well, I was just thinking, that thought popped in my head. Wouldn't it be funny? Like, this is my sense of humor. Wouldn't it be funny if it turned out that all UFOs, how right now we're like, oh, maybe they're okay, maybe they're not a threat, maybe they're friendly.
Right.
Wouldn't it be funny if it turns out that we're always super antagonistic? This whole time, they've been nothing but antagonists, and we should have just gotten rid of them a long time ago.
Exactly.
The whole time we're just like, oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're okay.
Well, look at the reality of what most of the UFO encounters are.
Mm-hmm.
Abductions, cattle mutilations, missing time, radiation burn, radiation sickness, implants, PTSD, horrible nightmares, horrific experiences on the ships, forced to do things against your will, abducted, taken against your will. That's what we have. And out of all of that, somehow we create the loving space brothers are here to care for us. Really? Man, you got a funny idea of what care is, my friend, and compassion. If we had people here on Earth, which we do, like we have people abducting people and selling them into sex slavery and things like that.
No, that's a great point.
Compassion.
That's a great point. I make that point all the time. I'm like, look, abduction is real. It happens. Humans always abduct. Humans are constantly abducting other humans. It's unpleasant. It's unpleasant. It's highly illegal. It's immoral.
That's right.
I talked about how animals do kidnap other animals. They do abduct other animals. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I know of at least one case where an animal has abducted a human. I'm sure it's happened a lot, but I know one case where in India, I think, a monkey went into a window and took out the baby, and the baby took the baby away and died. That is clearly a case of a non-human abducting a human.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is, like, I just basically, it's kind of sobering. It's my kind of sense of humor. It's honest though. The sense of humor. The joke is that abduction is common in the cosmos. It's common naturally. Abduction is kind of like in the fabric of humanity or nature. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't these things abduct us? Because it's so common. Everybody's abducting everybody all the time.
And why wouldn't we resist and fight back and be incensed by it? It's like, hey, this is not what I want to do. I don't give you permission to do this.
Well, I think if we're going to go down this route, I think that probably the UFOs, either on purpose or the abductors, either on purpose or on accident. They've developed a type of camouflage, which I call a cultural camouflage. So instead of a physical camouflage, like you buy some camo at Walmart,
Right.
instead of that kind of camo, what they've done is like, let's become invisible to a whole culture. In this case, humanity, the humans of Earth. Let's camouflage it. So, and the way they do it, I think, is with ridiculousness. They basically say, let's always appear ridiculous and fantastical. So, because we know that humans don't take that stuff seriously, so the people will be ostracized. Also, it just makes sense to tell them lies, because we tell them to look left when we're running right. That sounds like a really great camouflage that these abductors could use. And like I said, let's just assume it was on accident, it wasn't on purpose. Well, the side effect it's having is that it's helping to continue the abductions. It's helping us to not fight against the abductions, because basically it's so ridiculous that we would be ridiculed, you and I, if we spoke out against it.
Right.
And because we don't want to face ridicule, or maybe we have doubt, severe doubt because of society. Anyway, it all boils down to ridiculousness. And I believe the ridiculousness, the extremeness, the scariness, it's acting as a cultural camouflage.
It is.
And it'd be very scary if it was not on accident. If I was correct and it was by design, that would be scary, because these things have adapted. They've adapted. They've evolved to outmaneuver us very well. They know us so well that they're manipulating us. Definitely. That would be the scariest thing.
I think that's the case. And I have another theory. I don't have anything really to hang this on, but I've developed this theory of late that, you know, people always say, well, if they're so highly technologically advanced and if they're so highly evolved, if they wanted to, they could have wiped us out by now, enslaved us by now, this, that, and the other, whatever. And I've evolved this theory lately about, you know, what if in spite of all of this technology and in spite of the supposed advanced intelligence, what if our will, our affirmations, our power of prayer, our concerted spiritual efforts, what if those things have kept them from doing that? Because we know the concentrated and you know, conjoined power of prayer or affirmation or whatever works.
Right.
And we know that, like the what is it, the slit experiment, where the observation affects the outcome and all these types of things. So we know that we have these powers, these abilities. And what if, just what if, they haven't been able to do this because we have that capability, that spiritual capability to send that energy out there into the atmosphere and to keep that from becoming a full-blown scenario.
Yep. I mean, that makes sense. That's like, that goes, if we're looking at this, like I was saying, with the predators and, you know, adaptations and evolution, adapting to your prey, you know, if these abductors, let's just say abductions are real. If abductions are real, then definitely I think these things are predators. Anything that's abducting us with against our will, that's a predator. I'm sorry, that's a predator.
Exactly.
You know what that makes us? That makes us a prey. So let's just, if abductions are real, we are prey to whatever's abducting us. Now, like I said, this is nothing to be alarmed by. It actually happens all the time. There's a lot of predators out there. There's wolves,
serial killers.
There's human predators. There's like wolves, and there's sharks. I mean, there's a bear. There's a lot of prey out there. You know, it just so happens we're in that scenario. Now, the thing is that, you know, there's always a balance between it's a dance. You know, the prey is always dancing with the predator. And the dance is that they're both running as fast as they can just to stay in place, basically. Okay, what I mean by that is, by running as fast as you can, I mean their evolution, their adaptations, their strategies for fighting against each other, because we're at odds. So what I'm saying is that, it seems like the abductors have been running, and they've been thinking and scheming and to be able to control us well. And it does seem like they're doing it, because we seem to be getting abducted. But at the same time, we're still in the race right now.
Exactly.
We've probably evolved a lot of things that we're not aware of that are helping us, for them not to overtake us. because what happens in nature, if they don't keep up, I think this is called the Red Queen hypothesis.
Mm.
Red Queen is from Alice in Wonderland, I believe,
Right.
and there's some point in Alice in Wonderland where somebody's running in place, but they're not moving anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think the Red Queen has something to do with it. So the Red Queen hypothesis is that, yeah, these organisms are running as fast as they can to keep up with each other. What happens if one of them doesn't keep up with each other? Well, it's probably, let's see, if the prey doesn't keep up, probably it's extinction for the prey. The prey would just be decimated because it wouldn't be able to keep up.
Right.
If the predator can't keep up, if it just stops, well, then I guess the prey doesn't necessarily overtake it. It just lives peacefully, I guess, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't have to worry about extinction any longer.
Yeah.
It's the basic scenario. Yeah.
So it could be that we're humans and these abductors, it could be that we're in a scenario where we're just keeping up right now with each other.
Yeah.
So we have this weird balance that's happening.
I think it is. I think it's this weird balance. And I think we have to think about, hey, you know, how do we want this thing to go, and how are we going to work out this balance so that we're okay, we survive, we continue, and we're not subject to these abductions and things when we don't want to be. How do we get to that point? How do we get to that status? And the fact that I'm picking up from various nature spirits and other intelligences that they're not real happy with the scenario either, that would lend some credence to me that, hey, we can all band together and work against this thing and say, hey, not acceptable.
We can. I want to respond to that, but before that, Scotty says, I have seen orb trails, different color orbs too, white, light blue, and red. Okay, and Scotty, if you're still listening, I encourage you to ask any follow-up questions about orbs or anything else. I do want to keep you in a conversation if you're interested, Scotty, as far as your orb talk or anything else. So yeah, what I was going to say is that the abductors, our evolution. Yeah, one of the things that one of my early on when I started looking at this subject as a scientist, one of my early problems I saw out there and goals, I was like, we need to stop abductions. We got to stop it. We have to. That's enough abduction. You've had your fun, guys. Yep. We got to get on this. It is a huge. It's a huge problem that there's an organism out there that's predatory, and it could just incapacitate us and do with it whatever with our physical body.
Yep.
And so, yeah. So I always wonder now. Okay, I've asked a lot of people, and it seems to be that we can do it. It's very lo-fi, but it's just with our intention and basically with our emotions or something, you know, our thoughts. That's what I'm getting is one of the strongest weapons we have, which is inexpensive. It's very inexpensive, and I guess every human has it inherently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That goes back to, you know, our will, our intent, connecting with the spiritual realm, manifesting this energy in a practical way, and, you know, refusing to be a victim, refusing to be abducted, realizing that we have the intrinsic spiritual power to resist that. And especially the more so when we band together. And I think one of the interesting things for me is that over the years, religion has declined so drastically, not just mainline religions, but the psychic realm, the paranormal realm, spirituality. Things have gotten to be cottage industries. Things are very commercial, very material. The church has lost all credibility because so many of the big name evangelists have committed every type of sin on the planet and done every type of, you know, theft and con artists ripping off. I just read today about some big evangelist that was just arrested for money laundering. And this is occurring all the time. And I think that those things have weakened our spirituality to the point that that's not our fail-safe anymore. That's not our go-to response. So that in the past, where it may have been a very concerted and a very sincere and a very focused and energetic prayer or affirmation or visualization or whatever, in the past that may have been the case. And now, because so many things have fallen by the wayside and so much corruption has occurred, I think a lot of people have said, well, you know, geez, I'm over it. I'm done with it. And I don't think we have that go-to response anymore that we used to. Um, the go-to response for people in whatever way their belief system was to aggressively tackle a problem through whatever their method of prayer or releasing that energy was.
Right.
And we had congregations for that, whether it was church or a Wiccan, group gathering, whatever, whether it was a circle from a spiritualist church or whatever it was. We had others to congregate with and to merge our energy with and to focus that energy
Right.
on whatever specific problem. And then look what happened during COVID. You can't go to church.
Mm-hmm.
You can't meet with other people. You can't gather and communicate. You can't gather and have that power together. And that further weakened things. And then look what happened during that time frame. I think it's like almost a record number of manifestations of this UFO phenomenon and the things that are occurring. So I think that we have to acknowledge the phenomena for what it is and that it doesn't seem to have our interest at heart. And that we have to realize that we do have capability if we come together spiritually and activate that spiritual power, however we want to do that, and focus it towards the manifestation of protecting the human race. I think we can do that. And I think that may be one reason. Technology doesn't solve everything. People are like, well, there's some technology, so technologically advanced that could have wiped us out. Technology doesn't solve everything. And we have to understand that we still have this spiritual power that we can manifest and that we can affect the physical realm with and the spiritual realms with. And, that's something that we have to work at and come at in a logical way. And people are always saying, why is it so hard to connect with that or to advance in that way? Well, what we were talking about earlier, you decide you're going to be compassionate and loving, whatever you get out, and some guy cuts you off in traffic and you're flipping him off and cursing him out, And so that's our natural human nature. And I think that there are fail-safes, firewalls, if you will, in our spiritual growth so that we don't just immediately access this huge power that we could just fry people at will with, because that's what we would do. And so I think the other side has these firewalls in place where it's like, okay, let's give them a little bit of power and see what they do with it. And if you pass that test, you get a little more, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing that we have to do in looking at how we grow and focus on these things, possibly combat these things spiritually, is that we have to go at this from a pure heart, a pure motive, with self-discipline, self-control, and then with a focus toward not only our well-being, but humanity's well-being at large.
That's great. No, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's the way it should be. And but the sad thing is that there's barriers. We've mentioned many barriers that people have in attaining this goal.
Exactly.
There's a lot of barriers out there
There's a lot.
It's not for most humans. It's not easy to get to that spot because
it's not. And yet at the same time, it's the simplest thing there is to do. It's like turn off the TV, put down the cell phone, and it's such an easy thing, and yet so difficult at the same time.
But yeah, it's interesting. That's a really good point, because that's something that's true about science as well. The same thing about something that science has in common with meditation or taking control back of our spiritual powers and our spiritual life. It's the thing that, number one, the thing that science has that's the same as meditation. Number one is that it literally doesn't cost anything. It doesn't have to cost anything at all. It's like $0. Like I could teach you science, the concepts of science, the basics, and you could start doing science. You're not going to be able to do super crazy experiments, but you could do experiments without any money.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the same
way with spirituality. You can teach that you don't have to belong to a church. You don't have to tithe. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars to some group to learn how to meditate. It's there. It's affordable or free. It's
accessible.
Easy,
it's accessible.
But you got to do it. You got to apply it. You got to do it. And I think that's one of the things that people with egos or people that want to make money off of it, they throw all these unnecessary impediments in the way to make you think it's hard to achieve and to make you think it's difficult to do, or that you got to pay a lot of money for it, and you don't. And that's the beauty of it, is we can all achieve it to whatever degree, but everybody wants to put the ego in the way and say, oh, you got to study for years to do this. Well, no, not really. It's like in my latest book, 20 Ways to Increase Your Psychic Abilities. When I get that published, I take one psychic technique, like the first chapter is on psychometry. I define it, tell you what it is. I take you step by step and tell you exactly how to learn it, how to practice it, get good at it, how to do it in the real world application of it. And anybody can do it. There's no big mysterious thing. You don't have to shave your head, wear a robe, and go out in the mountains. Anybody can do this. It's learnable for anybody. It just depends on how much time, effort, and energy and application you want to put into it. But in reality, things that we think are very, very complicated are actually pretty simple. And then conversely, things that we think are pretty simple are actually pretty complicated. And so it's one of those things that makes, investigating the spiritual realm pretty difficult.
Yeah, well, that's pretty intense. But yeah, it's true. It could be very difficult at times.
Yeah.
To study these topics. There's a lot to consider. There's more layers going on there.
Absolutely.
But you did bring up a one subject. I definitely want you to discuss this. Can you tell us more about how can people support you? Where should they go? I know you have books. Where can they get those? Your websites. Just tell us all of that stuff so we know.
You can find out more about me at my website, johnrussell.net, johnrussell.net. And there's information on my readings. I read for a worldwide clientele. I've read for clients in over 40 countries. Right now, I'm booking into April of next year. So if you want to get a reading, get it there quick. And that's information on me. As far as my books, each book has a website, writingwithghosts.net, aknockintheattic.net, and there are links on there to buy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, mom and pop bookstores online, so on and so forth.
Cool.
So they can find out information there on those books, order them, and I recommend reading them, because I don't care how many books you've read on the paranormal, psychic realms, whatever. I can almost guarantee you have not read any books, any stories like these. I can almost guarantee you.
Let me give an endorsement for your writing, okay? Because
oh, bless your heart, thank you.
I haven't read your books, but I feel very confident what I'm about to say about your writing. So this is why I wholeheartedly recommend you buy John's books and you read them, because when it comes to the paranormal, John is very well spoken on the topics. Very easy to read or listen to, not confusing. There's no bullshit, not even a little bit of bullshit in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
It's a very entertaining, and I will say that's rare to speak with somebody. So I feel like if people were to read your book, they would come away smarter than they were before. You would have more knowledge, and you would be a better person for it. I think that would be good. Yeah, that's great.
Well, my friend, this has been great.
Yeah. It was great. We covered a lot, and I think we did sufficiently cover the title, which was the spiritual ecosystem of UFOs and the dead.
Exactly.
And I got some good insights. But yeah, thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me. It's been a delight. It's been great. We'll do it again down the road.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We have each other's email now.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And thank you to the people in the room, the Iowok, Scotty, Mr. Catfish, Bobby. Thank you so much for being on the show. Nina Williams, thank you for commenting. But yeah, we'll have a great night, and we'll be in touch. So thank you so much, John.
Good night.
Bye.